Chapter 883. Could it be that she had spied on him for so long just to save him? Could it be that she wanted to repay his kindness because he had treated her previously? You're not from the Wuxia kingdom? Ma Peja was a little shocked. Where did this guy come from? Robin Hood was a foreign name. And he was actually a hero thief. Why did all foreign thieves have such high cultivation? Don't talk nonsense. Do you want to live or do you want to know where I am from? Miss Xing asked expressionlessly. In order to monitor Xiao Chen at all times, she and Ling Qianxue had rented a house in the district where Xiao Chen lived. Just now she had felt Ma Pei's killing intent, so she rushed over and hid at the side to observe. She originally thought that Xiao Chen could smoothly escape with the help of the flying sword, but she didn't expect to be caught by Ma Pei's inescapable net. Miss Xing had no choice but to change into Ling Qianxue's nocturnal clothes and dress up as a thief to help. Why you little brat, how dare you challenge me? I will make sure you die without a burial place. Ma Peja was so angry that smoke was coming out of his head. Feeling that his injuries had slightly recovered, he roared and flew towards Miss Xing. Although Ma Peja seemed to be foolhardy in his rage and directly rushed forward, in reality, he had secretly used a hidden weapon between his index finger and thumb when he waved his palm. If one didn't observe carefully, it was basically impossible to tell. Seeing Ma Peja's action, Miss Xing was momentarily stunned. After exchanging blows with Ma Peja, she could clearly feel that his injuries were heavier than hers. She didn't expect him to still dare to take the initiative to attack. Could it be that he has a special recovery technique and has already healed his injuries? But that's not very likely. How could the Kai Tian sect not know what good things the Kuei-shan sect had? Although she was muttering in her heart, Miss Xing's movements did not have the slightest bit of hesitation. She once again struck out towards Ma Peja. But at this moment she suddenly heard Xiao Chen shout from behind, "Lady boy! Don't touch Ma Peja's palm." It turned out that at that moment, with the help of the moonlight, Xiao Chen saw a flash of light in Ma Wuzhuan's palm and immediately understood his intention. However, Xiao Chen's reminder came too late. Before he could finish his sentence, Xing and Ma Beiqi's palms were already touching. Bang! Another loud sound rang out. An even stronger airflow spread out from the space between little Chick Xing and Ma Weijia. Under the impact of the airflow, Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing were instantly blown away and fell to the ground not far away. Fortunately, Cheng Menjing had already burned a hole in the inescapable net, and the two of them broke free from the control of the inescapable net. You're so despicable. To actually use such a vicious concealed weapon. Under the exchange of palms, Miss Xing's body trembled. Her skin felt numb as if an electric current had passed through it. Her legs went soft and she fell to the ground. She discovered that there was a shiny barb in her palm. She was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. Ma Beiqi spat out a mouthful of black blood. He was already seriously injured and his skills were greatly reduced. Now that he had forcefully exchanged a palm with Miss Xing, not only did he not kill her, but he had also aggravated his internal injuries. However, his trick had still succeeded. Although Miss Xing was not seriously injured, the concealed weapon was smeared with a numbing poison. Once it entered her body, she would not be able to move for a short period of time. As long as he could control this strange nocturnal bandit, he would be able to find time to kill Xiao Chen. Ma Beiqi did not care about Miss Xing on the ground. He forcefully used his remaining trace of demonic qi and directly chased in the direction that Xiao Chen had escaped. At this time, Xiao Chen was still running with difficulty. Beside him was a limping Cheng Menjing. After breaking free from the inescapable net, there were still a few barbs in Xiao Chen's body. It was difficult to get them out in a short period of time, so he could not use sword kinesis flight. He could only stumble forward. However, no matter how hard Xiao Chen tried, he could not run fast. After running for a short distance, Ma Beiqi was about to catch up. Xiao Chen, don't struggle pointlessly. Just obediently give up. What's that? Ma Beiqi enjoyed the feeling of beating a drowning dog and laughed arrogantly. His attention was originally focused on Xiao Chen. Unexpectedly, a black shadow suddenly appeared beside him, giving Ma Beiqi a fright. Ma Beiqi looked down and realized that the black shadow was a black mutt. His originally nervous mood immediately relaxed. He raised his leg indifferently and wanted to kick the dog away. However, he did not expect that the dog's speed was so fast. It went past his leg and directly bit down on his crotch. Ouch! Ma Beiqi howled in pain and knelt down. He covered his bloody lower body and kept rolling on the ground. After the mutt bit down, it did not stop and chased after Xiao Chen's back. Wow, invincible dog, beautifully done. It is really worth it for me to raise you so well. Later, I will reward you with a can of high-grade dog food. Xiaoqun gave Invincible Dog a thumbs up and praised. He also saw the thrilling scene just now. If it was not for Invincible Dog's stroke of genius, perhaps he and Miss would really have to die here today. Stingy. Invincible Dog made a great contribution this time. Even if you give him high-grade dog food for the rest of his life, it will not be a problem. Cheng Minjing snorted in disgust. While running away, she did not forget to pat Invincible Dog's head twice to show encouragement. Woof! Invincible Dog barked loudly. He ran while wagging his tail, looking very proud. At this time, little Chick Xing finally pulled out the barbs on her palm. The numbness in her body also disappeared. She was about to die from anger. No matter what, she had the strength of a Demon King level 10 great perfection, yet she was defeated by such a low-grade hidden weapon. If Ma Beiki was not in a hurry to chase after Xiaoqun just now, she would have been killed. The more little Chick Xing thought about it, the angrier she got. She looked up and saw Ma Beiki rolling on the ground not far away. She immediately stood up and rushed over. She punched and kicked Ma Beiki to vent the anger in her heart. Puff. Ma Beiki already had serious internal injuries. In addition, his penis was bitten off by Invincible Dog. At this time, he was unable to resist little Chick Xing's storm-like punches and kicks. He was beaten until he vomited blood. He could only protect his head and face and passively take the beating. After beating for a while, little Chick Xing could only stop when she saw Ma Beiki's bruised appearance. She couldn't really kill this guy. Otherwise, she would not be able to explain to Elder Son when she returned. I'm in a good mood today. I'll spare your dog life for now. After beating him up, little Chick Xing's anger was almost gone. She snorted coldly and kicked Ma Beiki again. Then, she disappeared into the darkness and chased in the direction where Xiaoqun escaped. Ma Beiki, who was beaten to the face, was extremely depressed. What the F***ck was going on? Not only did he not kill Xiaoqun, but a Demon King level 10 great perfection appeared out of nowhere to oppose him. Moreover, there was also a spiritual beast dog at the peak of Demon Master level 10. When did so many tough things appear in the secular world? Could it be that I went the wrong way and went to the inner martial arts world? In desperation, Ma Beiki could only accept his bad luck. He endured the pain on his body and crawled up with difficulty. He ran back to the Quishan sect overnight to recuperate. He planned to find trouble with Xiaoqun after some time. However, his injuries could be recovered, but Ma Beiki's manly spirit could no longer be restored. He didn't know where Invincible Dog threw the thing it bit off. He couldn't find it after searching for a long time, so he could only leave dejectedly. Xiaoqun, where are we going? Can we no longer sell Youqiao in the future? Cheng Minjing was already standing on the flying sword that Xiaoqun was riding at this time. She held Invincible Dog in her arms and asked with a solemn face. In fact, Cheng Minjing quite missed the days of selling Youqiao. Although she was always tired from waking up early to sleeping late every day, and she always had to worry that she would be seen through, she lived a very fulfilling life. Missy felt that her life seemed to be more stable than before when she didn't have to worry about food and clothing. Now that she couldn't sell Youqiao, she was a little disappointed. She originally wanted to take some time to return to the Cheng family to tell them that she was safe, but she never had the chance to go. She felt very upset, and she didn't know how her father and grandfather were doing recently. Let's go hide in Lan City first. Ma Beiki is seriously injured, so he can't do anything to us for the time being. However, we can't let our guard down either. It'll be too dangerous if we stay in Songning City, Xiaoqun replied calmly, but he was thinking about something else. Xiaoqun was a little surprised by Miss Xing's help. Awakening Sect was obviously the backer of the Kuei Mountain Sect in the martial arts world. She should have joined forces with Ma Beiki to deal with him. In the end, not only did she not help, but she blocked the attack for him and even injured the other party. What kind of inside story was hidden in this? But, we don't even have a place to stay when we go to Lan City. We only have tens of thousands of yuan left. How are we going to sustain ourselves? Cheng Minjing asked worriedly. Now that their only source of income had been cut off, would they have to rely on begging to survive from now on? Let's take it one step at a time. If it really doesn't work, I'll use the money to start a small business. Don't worry, Missy. As long as I'm here, I won't let you go hungry. Xiaoqun smiled bitterly and shook his head. When he was in dire straits, he couldn't even afford a bowl of noodles, but didn't he still make it through? There was nothing that couldn't be done, only the determination that wasn't brave enough. Alright, that's the only way. Cheng Minjing nodded helplessly. It was already late at night when they arrived at Lan City. Xiaoqun randomly found an express hotel to stay in. In order to save money, he only booked the cheapest standard room with 2 beds for 2 people. Cheng Minjing didn't object. She was already used to sleeping in the same room with Xiao Qin. If they were really separated, she wouldn't be used to it. The next morning, Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing both woke up and went to the hotel's restaurant for breakfast. Chapter 884. During the meal, the two noticed many parents checking into hotels with their children. From their conversation, they could tell that these people were obviously going to report to the nearby Lan City University. Looking at the excited students, Cheng Minjing suddenly remembered that it was time for the start of university. If she hadn't met with so many accidents back then, she would definitely have gone to university too. But now she was running for her life, on the run everywhere. Not only did she live in fear every day, she also had to worry about how to earn money to live. It seemed that she would never have the chance to step into a university in this lifetime. Eldest Miss, do you want to experience university life too? Seeing Cheng Minjing's envious and melancholic expression, Xiao Qin guessed what was on her mind and felt a little guilty. If it wasn't for his momentary impulse, would the eldest miss be so miserable that she would have to run for her life with him? No matter what, he had to make it up to her. I'm just thinking about it. I can't even pay the tuition fees now and I'm still on the run. Sigh. Cheng Minjing sighed, her tone full of disappointment. If I had a way to let you study at Lan City University for free, would you go? Xiao Qin asked as he took out his phone. His hands didn't stop moving as he swiftly swapped in a new SIM card he bought from a roadside stall a few days ago. Tsk, you make it sound nice. Do you think you're the one who opened the university? Do you think you can go just because you say so? Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes, but she was secretly looking forward to it. Could it be that Xiao Qin really had the ability? Xiao Qin smiled and didn't choose to bicker with Cheng Minjing. Instead, he dialed a number on his phone. Hello, who is this? After the call connected, a middle-aged man's voice came from the other end after a while. Deputy Director Xia, I'm Xiao Qin. I'm staying in Lan City now and I need your help with something. Xiao Qin originally wanted to call Ling Tian, but felt that he might be busy, so he called Xia Zhili instead. It's you? Why did you go to Lan City again? Is there a problem? Xia Zhili was surprised. I did run into some trouble. Yesterday my identity was exposed by Ma Wuxia. He brought a group of people to find me in the middle of the night and then... Xiao Qin briefly recounted what happened last night. I see. What do you plan to do next? What did you want me to help you with? After Xia Zhili heard this, he felt a headache coming on. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do. Fortunately, Xiao Qin was injured and wouldn't appear in the near future. He should give Xiao Qin some help in other aspects. Oh, it's not a big deal. Cheng Minjing and I want to study at Lanqing University, so I'd like to ask for your help in arranging the admission procedures here, Xiao Qin said lightly. No problem. I'll send someone to do it. Wait for my news. Xia Zhili readily agreed. Although he didn't know why Xiao Qin suddenly wanted to go to university, he didn't plan to get to the bottom of it. Xiao Qin must have his own reasons for doing so. Thank you, Deputy Bureau Chief Xia, Xiao Qin nodded. He knew that Xia Zhili would definitely be able to solve the problem, so he didn't say anything else. Why are you being so polite with me? It's nothing. Xia Zhili brushed over this matter. Then he suddenly thought of something and said, Oh right. Because your bank card is being monitored, your salary is still with me for the time being. If you need any money, just let me know. Okay, I understand. Xiao Qin chatted with Xia Zhili for a while longer before hanging up. He gave an okay gesture to Cheng Minjing. Just a phone call? You've already settled the university procedures? Cheng Minjing asked doubtfully. Yeah, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau still has some power in the secular world. This kind of small matter can be settled in minutes. Xiao Qin waved his hand and said indifferently. Cheng Minjing still didn't believe it. She thought that Xiao Qin was bragging, so she didn't take it to heart and changed the topic. It wasn't until that afternoon that Xia Zhili personally sent the admission notice to the two of them and specially gave Xiao Qin a large sum of money that Cheng Minjing believed what Xiao Qin said was true. She was sincerely convinced by him. After receiving the admission notice, Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing followed the photo and transformed themselves into two other people. Because the appearance in the photo wasn't too outstanding, it wouldn't attract the attention of others. The department that Xia Zhili arranged for them was inconspicuous, and the major that they studied couldn't be any more unpopular. This was also because Xia Zhili was afraid that they would be too ostentatious, so he deliberately made it more low-key. Department of Archaeology. Ancient Martial Arts Research Major? Xiao Qin looked at the major on the admission notice and wondered, What the hell is this major? I've never heard of it. Who would study such a minor major for no reason? This Xia Zhili isn't reliable at all. Don't be so calculative. Do you want to enter the arts department and take the opportunity to hook up with beautiful girls? Qing Minjing pouted. She didn't care much about the major. It was already good enough to be able to attend university, but she didn't know how long she could stay there. If she was discovered by the Quishan sect, she would probably have to run for her life again. With you, my legitimate fiancé, by my side, how would I dare to touch other girls? Otherwise, if I get beaten up by a powerful cultivator like you, wouldn't I be asking for trouble? I won't do such a thing where the losses outweigh the gains. Xiao Qin smiled and shook his head. That's nice to hear. Didn't you flirt with Lu Shuangshuang in front of me before? Now you're serious. Although Qing Minjing didn't sound very happy, she was very happy in her heart. It seemed that Xiao Qin still placed her in a very important position. How would I know that you were watching from upstairs? Xiao Qin touched his nose and muttered. Qing Minjing glared at him and snatched the admission notice from his hand. Oh yeah, I have to change our names. It'll be easier to call each other in the future so that we won't be noticed. Xiao Qin didn't object. After Qing Minjing finished writing, he looked over and saw that his name was written Xiao Yi, and the lady's name was Qing Yao Yao. Looking at the name change notice, Qing Minjing nodded in satisfaction and handed it to Xiao Chen. Take it. Remember, if someone calls Xiao Yi in the future, don't be in a daze. It'll be troublesome if you accidentally expose yourself. Yes, Miss Qing Yao Yao, Xiao Chen said helplessly. However, this admission notice was special. The school didn't have a record and the name could be filled in casually. As long as the Supernatural Investigation Bureau contacted them, it would be fine. What should we do next? It's getting late. It looks like we can only report tomorrow. Qing Minjing looked out the window. The sky was gradually darkening. Why don't we do what we love to do? Xiao Chen was only halfway through his joke when he saw Qing Minjing frowning and glaring at him with an unfriendly expression. He had no choice but to change his words. Let's go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities. Otherwise, we'll be at a loss when we get to the dormitory. At least you said something reasonable. Qing Minjing snorted and left the hotel with Xiao Chen. They first went to a small restaurant nearby to eat something for dinner. Then they went to a large supermarket next to the restaurant. Since the two of them fled to Lan City overnight, they basically didn't bring anything with them. Other than buying some daily necessities, they also had to buy a few sets of clothes and 2 large suitcases. Xiao Chen was very casual. To him it didn't matter what he wore, so he quickly chose. On the other hand, Qing Minjing was different. She used to wear famous brands and used imported shampoo and shower gel. Therefore, she didn't buy anything in the supermarket at all. It took her a long time to choose from the shelves. After buying everything else, she even bought a few sets of underwear and panties. Only then did she pay the bill and return to the hotel in satisfaction. Early the next morning, Xiao Qin checked out of the room. He and Qing Minjing first found a pet shop to keep invincible. Then they carried a pile of luggage and walked to Lan City University to report. It was Qing Minjing's first time entering a university. Everything she saw was new. After all, Lan City University was several times bigger than Songning No. To high school. She couldn't see the end of it at a glance. The young lady who had just entered a university looked at the parents and students in 2s and 3s around her. She couldn't help but feel a little excited. Xiao Qin, on the other hand, led the way in front with a calm expression. He had stayed in Lanqing University for a period of time before, so he was very familiar with the distribution of the various office buildings, so he directly led Qing Minjing in the direction of the new student registration center. Xiao Qin. Watching Xiao Qin walk forward, Qing Minjing was a little puzzled. Why does this guy seem to have been here before? She was about to ask about the situation but accidentally blurted out Xiao Chen's name. She hurriedly coughed twice to cover it up. Ahem. Xiao Yi, do you know the new student registration office? I feel like you're very familiar with this university. Oh, I came to Lan City University for a mission before, so I'm quite familiar with the environment. Xiao Chen said lightly. He didn't want to explain too much lest the young lady get jealous again. Qing Minjing was stunned. Did you come here for a mission? Why didn't Xiao Chen mention this to me? Just as she was about to ask more questions, a gentle male voice came over. Beautiful junior, which faculty are you going to? Do you know the way? Why don't you let Senior Ice Cream take you there? Hearing this voice, although Qing Minjing's expression didn't change, she was a little surprised and excited in her heart. She had also heard that there would be a lot of sophomore and junior year students who would take the opportunity to hook up with beautiful girls during the new student registration office. But her current appearance was very ordinary. Why did she encounter such a thing? Chapter 885. Is it because of her natural beauty? Even if she transforms into another face, it's difficult to conceal her inner elegance? Yes, that must be the case. It seems like the seniors of Lan City University have good taste. While Cheng Minjing was still immersed in her fantasy, another girl's voice responded to the senior. Thank you, senior, but I'm still waiting for a friend to leave with me. I won't trouble you. Cheng Minjing was stunned again. When she raised her head, she realized that a girl who was not inferior to her original appearance was standing not far away. Beside her stood a very handsome boy. The boy's skin was as fair as ice cream and he was tall and handsome. One look and you could tell that he was a pretty boy. In an instant, Cheng Minjing's face burned. She almost made a big mistake. Fortunately, her appearance had been transformed. Even if she looked like a piece of red cloth, no one would be able to tell. Wuxia, there are too many students in this university. There's a long line just to use the restroom. Sister Souring almost couldn't hold it in just now. The senior, Ice Cream, wanted to continue, but he was pushed to the side by Tian Souring and almost fell to the ground. Xiaoqun was also stunned when he heard the voice. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He turned to look at the source of the voice and realized that it was Tian Souring and Su Chuxia. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? That's right, Su Chuxia and Tian Souring were also here to report to Lan City University. As soon as they entered, Tian Souring ran to find the restroom, while Su Chuxia, who waited in place, ran into Ice Cream, a senior who specialized in seducing new juniors. Ice Cream's name was Shui Gao. He was the young master of Lan City's Shui family. Because of his fair appearance and refined manners, many girls nicknamed him Ice Cream. Despite Shui Gao's sanctimonious appearance, he had actually harmed many new girls in secret. However, to the surprise of those who didn't know the truth, he had never been scolded because of this. The reason was also very simple. After Shui Gao got bored of those girls, he would use all kinds of bitter reasons to break up with them. For example, there was a huge disparity in their family background, and their parents didn't agree to it. Or it was not the girl's first time, and it would bring shame to her family and so on. This would make the girl feel guilty, and then she would take the opportunity to give the other party a considerable sum of money as compensation. Some of the inexperienced girls naturally didn't understand Shui Gao's sinister intentions and were easily convinced by his words. There were also some girls who came for the money. Since Shui Gao was willing to pay, they didn't care about anything else. Of course, as the saying goes, if you often walk by the river, how could you not wet your shoes? Sometimes there were some girls who really liked Shui Gao, so after they broke up, they refused to accept his money, and they didn't believe his lies. They insisted that Shui Gao give them an explanation. Then he would use the power of his family to find someone to settle the matter with the girl. Little girl, are you blind? You even dare to push Senior Ice Cream? Hurry up and apologize. Seeing that Shui Gao was pushed, his subordinates hurriedly steadied him, then pointed at Tian sourly and scolded. You're the blind one. It was clearly this pretty boy blocking the way. Sister Source merely gave him a light touch and he was sent flying to the side. Your body is too weak, yet you still have the nerve to blame others? Tian Source rolled his eyes as he spoke rudely. You. That subordinate wanted to continue scolding, but he was stopped by Shui Gao. Turning his head, Shui Gao smiled at Tian sourly and said, Hee, this junior is right. It was indeed my fault. I shouldn't have blocked your way. Senior Ice Cream apologizes to you. The reason why Shui Gao was so tolerant was mainly because Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan were just too beautiful. He had been in Lanqing University for so many years, and other than the campus belle Ling Qinyu, he had never seen a girl of such high quality. Originally he wanted to make a move on Ling Qinyu, but her background was too powerful. Although the Shui family was prestigious in Lan City, they didn't dare to go against the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. As for some traditional techniques to pick up girls such as sending flowers and treating them to meals, Ling Qinyu was completely immune to them. Shui Gao tried for a long time but to no avail. In the end he could only choose to give up. Since you're so sincere, Big Sister Sourly will forgive you. You can kneel and rest. Tian sourly waved her hand casually, then turned to Su Chuxia and said, Chuxia, have you found the registration counter for the metal material engineering major? Let's hurry up and settle the admission procedures, then go eat. Are you a pig? You just had breakfast and you're hungry again? Su Chuxia glared at her and pointed not far away. There, we'll register over there. Let's move our luggage to the dormitory first, then find the cafeteria to eat. Okay. Let's hurry over. Tian sourly nodded excitedly, then ran over with Su Chuxia, leaving Shui Gao standing there in a daze. He didn't know what to say. By the time he opened his mouth to ask them to stay, the two girls had already run far away. Although Xiao Chen was registering, his ears weren't idle. When he heard that the two girls were applying for the metal material engineering major, he couldn't help but be stunned. Although this major wasn't as unpopular as his major, it wasn't popular either. Moreover, most of the students were male. Didn't the girls usually apply for the literature or art majors? However, after thinking about it carefully, Xiao Chen understood. Su Chuxia must have applied for this major to inherit her father's career. As for Tian sourly, he was probably just a bystander hanging around Su Chuxia's side. Because Xiao Chen looked different now, after completing the admission procedures, he didn't greet the two girls. Instead, he brought Cheng Minjing to the other side and prepared to register at the archaeology department. Not long after, Su Chuxia and Tian sourly were also done. The two of them were looking left and right for the female dormitory. Shui Gao, who had been waiting at the back, saw them and immediately went up to them. He smiled innocently and said, "Two beauties, are you done with the admission procedures? I wonder if this senior has the honor to treat you to lunch?" Chuxia, don't you think that person looks like Xiao Chang? Just as Su Chuxia was about to refuse, Tian Suruan suddenly tugged on her sleeve and pointed excitedly at the back of a boy. "Sourly, are you crazy because you miss Xiao Chang? How could he appear in Lanqing University?" Su Chuxia replied. She looked in the direction Tian sourly was pointing and saw Xiao Chen's back. Tian sourly shook Su Chuxia's arm and said, "He really looks like him. Look carefully." He really does look like him. It shouldn't be. Is he here on a mission again? Why didn't he tell us beforehand? Su Chuxia mumbled softly. "Let's go and take a look." Seeing that Su Chuxia agreed, Tian sourly dragged her and chased after them. Hey. Sourly, what are you doing? Don't you see there's a girl beside him? Don't scare me. Su Chuxia was shocked and said helplessly. However, she wasn't as strong as Tian sourly, so she could only be dragged along. So what if that girl is Xiao Chang's girlfriend? At most we'll have a threesome. Sister sourly doesn't have much time left. If we don't go crazy we'll be done for, Tian sourly said nonchalantly as she ran. Hearing Tian sourly's words, Su Chuxia couldn't refute and could only follow her. At that moment, Shui Gao, who was completely ignored by the two girls, had an extremely ugly expression on his face. It was as if he had been constipated for a few days. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in public, he would have exploded a long time ago. This was already the second time he was ignored by these two girls today. As the school hunk of Lanqing University, he used to be surrounded by girls wherever he went. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? "Big Head, go and investigate these two girls and see where they come from," Shui Gao ordered his subordinate as he stared at Su Chuxia and Tian sourly's backs. "Okay, young Master Shui. Just wait for my good news." Shui Gao's subordinate, who was called Big Head, licked his lips and quickly ran to the new student registration counter. After a few words, he slapped a stack of money and bought Su Chuxia and Tian sourly's information. The student council members in charge of registration were also helpless. They didn't dare to anger the great Shui Gao, so they could only obediently hand over the information. After all, they were just taking a photo for Big Head. It wasn't a dereliction of duty, right? Shui Gao couldn't help but feel a little proud as he flipped through the information of the two girls. From the information, Su Chuxia's family was very ordinary, while Tian sourly's family was even more unknown. Neither of them had a strong background. Since that was the case, Shui Gao felt a lot more at ease. These two girls were probably new to the university and wanted to pretend to be innocent. As long as he took the initiative, he would be able to conquer them sooner or later. If he really couldn't do it, he would use force and take all of them. Since they didn't have any background, he wasn't afraid at all. "Xiao Yi, you were staring at those two beautiful girls just now. Were you thinking of unhealthy things? Tell me the truth." Cheng Minjing was a little unhappy as she walked with Xiao Chen. This guy couldn't move at the sight of beautiful girls. With this kind of behavior, he would probably fall into the hands of women sooner or later. Slap. Before Xiao Chen could answer, he felt someone pat his shoulder. He turned around and was surprised to see Tian sourly standing behind him. Behind her was Su Chuxia, who was panting. He pretended to be confused and asked, "Students, who are you looking for?" "Ah. Tian sourly saw that it was a stranger who turned around and was instantly very disappointed. She waved her hand in embarrassment and said, "I'm sorry. Sorry to disturb you, I mistook you for someone else." "What's fine? You two are so beautiful. What are your names? Which faculty are you from?" "They say that it takes 500 times in a previous life to exchange for a painless abortion in this life. Since we are so fated, why don't we have a meal together?" Xiao Qin didn't plan to let them go so easily. He teased them with a smirk. Chapter 886. "I don't have time for you. You already have a girlfriend and you're still trying to seduce us. You're definitely not a good person. I advise you to cherish what's in front of you, bye-bye," Tian Shaoring said with a look of disgust. Then he pulled Su Chuxia away as he cursed in his heart, "You're so ugly, yet you still have the nerve to flirt around. Moreover, you did it in front of your girlfriend. How shameless." However, Su Chuxia, who was dragged away by Tian Shaoring, did not think so. She did not know why, but when she saw Xiao Qin, she felt a sense of familiarity with him even though he looked unfamiliar. It was as if the two of them had known each other for a long time. Could it be that they had looked back 500 times in their previous lives? "Xiao, I realize that you're getting more and more filthy. How dare you say painless in front of so many girls? What was that? Even if you're shameless, there should be a limit, alright?" Cheng Minjing scolded him with a stern face after she watched Tian Shaoring and Su Chuxia walk away. "Haha, what's wrong with that? It's not like I don't know them. I was just joking." Xiao Qin shook his head with a smile. He did it on purpose to make Su Chuxia and Tian Shaoring stop paying attention to him. "You know them?" Cheng Minjing was shocked. She asked suspiciously, "Don't tell me they're your mistresses' mistresses? That's not it. Didn't I tell you just now? I was on a mission at Lanqing University. I was in charge of protecting a girl, the one just now." Xiao Qin shrugged. He briefly explained Su Chuxia and Tian Shaoring's identities, as well as his mission. "Oh, I see. Looks like you're still hiding a lot from me." Cheng Minjing felt a little uncomfortable. She thought about it and asked, "You really have nothing to do with them?" Ever since she discovered the adultery between Xiao Qin and Lu Shuangshuang, Cheng Minjing became a little suspicious. As long as a beautiful girl talked to Xiao Qin, she would feel that there was something wrong. "Don't let your imagination run wild. I really don't have that kind of relationship, but I'm on good terms with them. I should be considered good friends." Xiao Qin smiled and said, "Otherwise I wouldn't have made such a joke." "Well, I'll believe you this time. Just do what you say." Seeing that Xiao Qin's attitude was very indifferent, Cheng Minjing also believed 70% to 80%. She was too lazy to ask more. In any case, she would be able to see him every day. If she wanted to catch the adulterer, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes? The two of them came to the classroom of the ancient martial arts research major with big and small bags. In the end, they found that there were only 3 male students sitting in the entire classroom. Including Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing who were standing at the door, there were only a total of 5 people. The huge classroom seemed very deserted. However, Xiao Qin was not surprised by this scene. Archaeology was a very boring subject. Coupled with the fact that it was an unpopular major like ancient martial arts research, there was even less interest in applying for it. After all, it was not easy for young students to pass the college entrance examination. They all hoped to find a university that they liked and a popular major to study, such as international trade management, computer technology, or law. Moreover, it was easier for students who studied such major to find a job after graduation. Who would have nothing better to do and come to study ancient martial arts? After looking around the classroom, Xiao Qin carried his bags and walked in. Cheng Minjing followed behind him. Xiao Qin looked at the other 3 students sitting in the classroom without batting an eyelid. One of them seemed to be very aloof, sitting there expressionlessly. He only shot a glance at the new student and then ignored him. No one knew what he was thinking. The other one was silently reading a book. He did not even raise his head. Xiao Qin quietly glanced at him. He found that he was reading a book that looked like a martial arts secret book. However, he did not know what the content was. The person had only opened the middle 2 pages. Without being able to connect the context, Xiao Qin could not understand it at all. As for the remaining person, he was very enthusiastic. As soon as Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing stepped into the classroom, that person immediately greeted them with a smile. "Hello. My name is Jianghu. I am an ancient martial arts enthusiast." Jianghu first shook hands with Xiao Qin. Then he smiled and nodded to Cheng Minjing. After all, she was a girl. Although she was not very beautiful, it was not appropriate to casually shake hands. Hello, my name is Xiao Yi. This is my girlfriend Qing Yao Yao. We did not study ancient martial arts. It was only because we were curious that we signed up for this major. Xiao Qin said straightforwardly. Hearing the other party say that he was an ancient martial arts enthusiast, Xiao Qin could not say that he was also an ancient martial arts enthusiast, right? If he came up for an academic discussion, wouldn't he be stumped? Hehe, so that's how it is. You spent a whole 4 years to be curious about this major. It seems that the two of you are really interested in this. Jianghu was a little surprised and asked in surprise. Xiao Qin smiled and did not answer. He knew that his statement was a little hasty, but he could not find a more suitable reason at the moment. Actually, ancient martial arts is quite interesting. If you are interested in learning more, I can take some time to explain the introductory knowledge in this area. Jianghu did not pursue this matter too much. Instead, he pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose and enthusiastically introduced the subject. In his opinion, perhaps these two people had impressive backgrounds. They were second-generation rich or something. They came to university for entertainment and did not have any requirements for their major. This kind of thing was very common, so Jianghu did not find it strange. Okay, thank you very much. Xiao Qin smiled and nodded. His first impression of Jianghu was quite good. After sitting down, he chatted with him for a while. Not long after, the classroom door was pushed open with a click. An old man who looked like a pedant walked in. After glancing at the students in the classroom, he walked to the podium. Hello, students. I am the instructor in charge of teaching ancient martial arts. I am also the only instructor in Lan City University who has the honor of being a tenured professor in the Department of Archaeology. Although the old man was over 60 years old, his legs were very agile. He came to the center of the podium in a few steps and introduced himself. Xiao Qin and the others were shocked. They did not expect the old man to have such a loud voice despite his thin body. Everyone quickly sat up straight and focused on the teacher on the podium. The old man nodded with satisfaction and continued, My surname is Zhong. You can call me Professor Zhong or Sir Zhong. You can also call me Professor Zhong. Xiao Qin almost spat out. He did not expect this Professor Zhong to be so fashionable. He did not look like an old man at all. In our ancient martial arts department, there are a total of 6 freshmen reporting this year, but now I have counted, there are only 5 people. As for where the other male student went, I don't want to know. After all, the class hasn't officially started yet, so I won't bother with him so much. Professor Zhong looked at the roster in his hand and knocked on the table casually. Xiao Qin and Cheng Menjing looked at each other with a helpless expression. Although they knew that they had entered an unpopular department, it was too unpopular. There were only 6 people in the entire department. It was estimated that a row of tables could not be filled. The young miss was even more worried. Professor Zhong just said that the remaining student was also a male student? Then she was the only girl in this department. What would happen to the dormitory if that was the case? Professor Zhong paused, put his hand on the table and continued, Next, you will go to the dormitory to rest first and then familiarize yourselves with the environment of Lan City University. After the official start of the semester, the school will arrange 10 days of military training and welcome party for the freshmen. I will tell you the specific time and content of the party when the time comes. Are there any other questions? Xiao Qin and the other boys shook their heads. It was their first day meeting Professor Zhong, so they did not know what to ask. Professor Zhong, Cheng Menjing plucked up the courage to speak but was interrupted by Professor Zhong. I know what you want to ask. Since you are the only girl in this department, your dormitory will be together with the girls of other departments. When you go to the girls' dormitory later, ask the teacher in charge there and you will know. Okay. Cheng Menjing was stunned and answered subconsciously. Then she heard Professor Zhong ask again, Who else has a question? Looking at the silent crowd, Professor Zhong shrugged and said, Very good. I have already given you a chance to ask questions. Since none of you asked, don't come to me if you are caught unprepared. Dismissed. After saying that, he picked up the roster on the table, turned around and walked out of the classroom. I still have a question. Cheng Menjing muttered softly, her expression not looking too good. Why is this old man in such a hurry? I haven't even finished asking my question. He's running away faster than a monkey. The boy who was reading and the aloof boy waited for Professor Zhong to leave. Without saying a word, they packed up and left the classroom. It seemed that they went to find their own dormitories. Xiao Qin and Jianghu looked at each other and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why is this Professor Zhong like an old urchin? He doesn't have the tone and magnanimity of an elder at all. It's just like the saying, the old should be arrogant, the young should be steady. Xiao Yi, why didn't you ask where the girls' dormitory of the archaeology department is just now? Do you want me to look for it alone? Cheng Minjing had nowhere to vent her anger, so she simply fired at Xiao Chen. Professor Zhong has a weird temper. I just hesitated for a moment and he actually ran away. He even said that I shouldn't look for him if I am caught unprepared. What kind of teacher is this? It's okay, I will go with you. I am quite familiar with the girls' dormitory. Xiao Chen had been there many times before. I will also go with you. I am not very familiar with the environment here. It just so happens that I can have a companion. Jiang Yuzhen continued with a smile. Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen. She originally wanted to ask him why he was so familiar with the girls' dormitory, and if he often went in and peeped at girls bathing. However, with Jiang Yuzhen by her side, she held back. Chapter 887. Xiao Chen did not refuse. He could see that Jiang Yuzhen's character was not bad. Although he was more enthusiastic, he was still polite and didn't talk much. It would be best if he could become his roommate. The three of them dragged their bags and walked towards the dormitory. They did not receive much attention on the way. After all, Xiao Chen and Jiang Yuzhen looked like loser young men, and Cheng Minjing's appearance was relatively ordinary. She was the kind of person who could not be found in the crowd, so no one paid attention to the three of them. When they arrived at the dormitory, Cheng Minjing realized that the boys' dormitory and the girls' dormitory were facing each other. No wonder Xiao Chen said such strange things. Lanqing University was a relatively high-class university. The dormitories were all simple two-person rooms, and they were all divided according to their major. As expected, Xiao Chen's wish came true. He and Jiang Yuzhen were indeed assigned to the same dormitory. However, Cheng Minjing was the only girl in the ancient martial arts major, so she could only be coordinated and arranged in the dormitory of other majors, as Professor Zhong had already said just now. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to find Professor Zhong to coordinate and see if he could arrange a separate room for Cheng Minjing, but considering what Professor Zhong had just said, he had to give up this idea. Besides, even if he wanted to find him, he didn't know where to find him. In desperation, Xiao Chen could only find a tutor in charge of the girls' dormitory. After explaining the situation in detail to her, she happily took Cheng Minjing to arrange a dormitory. Lanqing University focused on science and engineering. There were more men's dormitories and fewer women's dormitories, so there were basically no vacancies. Even if there were single people living in, they were all people with backgrounds who could not be offended. Therefore, when the tutor in charge looked for them at the beginning, she was also confused and didn't know where to start. Fortunately, when she checked the situation of the dormitory, she suddenly received a phone call. The phone call was from the school, and she was ordered to arrange Cheng Minjing and Ling Qinyu in the same dormitory. It turned out that Lanqing University felt that it wouldn't be a problem for these two to live together since they both had connections with the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. It was also reasonable for them to live together, so they made such an arrangement. The female tutor finally heaved a sigh of relief. She hurriedly brought Cheng Minjing to Ling Qinyu's room, gave her the key and left after saying a few words. Opening the door, Cheng Minjing saw that Ling Qinyu had yet to return from her summer vacation. She put away her luggage, rolled up her sleeves and began to clean the room. Since no one had lived here for a long time, there was a lot of dust in the room. It took Cheng Minjing a whole hour to clean it up. Looking at the clean windows and table, she was about to take a hot shower when the door of the dormitory was suddenly pushed open. Who are you? Why are you in my dormitory? Ling Qinyu, who was standing at the door, was shocked and asked in surprise. Why would a girl suddenly appear in the room? No one had informed her before. Hello, my name is Qing Yaoyao. I've just arrived at Lanqing University to report today. Since my department doesn't have an extra female dormitory, I've been arranged to live in the same dormitory as you. Please take care of me. Cheng Minjing smiled and said politely. Ah, I see. Hearing that it was arranged by the school, although Ling Qinyu was still a little unwilling, she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she said enthusiastically, Hello, I thought it was boring to live alone. Now that I have a companion, it's not bad. If you need any help, just ask me. Thank you. I still have many things to trouble Senior Qinyu in the future. Cheng Minjing was originally worried that she would be ignored, but she didn't expect to meet a considerate roommate. She was very happy and her tone became more intimate. From now on, we'll be living under the same roof. If there's any inconvenience, I hope Senior Qinyu can forgive me. You know my name? Ling Qinyu was a little surprised. Did this Qing Yaoyao come prepared? The tutor who brought me here just told me. I just found out that you're called Ling Qinyu and you're 1 year older than me. Qing Minjing nodded with a smile. Ling Qinyu made an "oh" sound and finally understood. She felt ashamed in her heart. I shouldn't have thought too badly of others. Seeing that Ling Qinyu didn't speak, Qing Minjing took the initiative to invite her. Senior sister, it's already noon. Why don't we have lunch together? Junior sister will treat you. The reason why the miss was so close to Ling Qinyu was because after talking, she felt that this senior sister had a good temper. Although she was very beautiful, her personality wasn't as weird as other beauties like Yi Xiaoya. She should be a friend worth making, so she wanted to invite her to lunch together. Although her pocket money wasn't as much as before, after being extorted by Xiao Qin, her pocket money was still more than that of an ordinary university student. Moreover, the university cafeteria wasn't that expensive. The two girls couldn't eat much even if they stuffed themselves. After all, they would be staying together in the future. It wasn't a bad thing to build a good relationship in advance. How can that be? Since you called me senior sister, this meal is naturally on me. How can I let you spend money when you just entered the university? Ling Qinyu quickly waved her hand. The grudge in her heart was gradually dispelled. In fact, because Ling Qinyu had always lived alone, she felt very uncomfortable suddenly having another person in the dorm. One had to know that she usually liked to walk around in the room naked. She also had the habit of sleeping naked. Therefore, the arrival of Qing Minjing made her feel very awkward for a moment. However, Ling Qinyu couldn't refuse. She couldn't use her grandfather's name to force the school to vacate a dorm for her, right? That would be too unreasonable. It was impossible for her to do that. However, what made her feel fortunate was that this Qing Yaoyao in front of her, although her appearance was relatively ordinary, her attitude was polite. She looked like a well-educated and reasonable person. In the future they should be able to get along well. She wouldn't have any conflicts with her. This. Qing Minjing still wanted to decline. However, the phone on her suddenly rang. She smiled apologetically at Ling Qinyu. She took out her phone and found that it was Xiao Qin who called. She picked it up. Yao Jiamuzan and I have settled down. Did you settle the dorm on your side? Xiao Qin asked on the other side of the phone. It has been settled. The school arranged a dorm for me. I live with a senior sister. Qing Minjing nodded her head and replied. Oh, that's good. Xiao Qin pondered for a moment and continued, how about this, I'll come to find you later. Jiamuzan just said that he wanted to eat with me. I think it's about time. You should call that senior sister. Let's go together. It's my treat. There was a reason why Xiao Qin said this. Considering Miss Cheng's personality, he was afraid that this little girl might cause trouble for her senior sister in the future. So, it was better to build a good relationship with her first. Okay, then you guys come over now. I'll be in the female dorm. I'll go down with senior sister later. Qing Minjing didn't hesitate and directly agreed. After putting down the phone, she told Ling Qinyu about her boyfriend wanting to treat her. She wanted to ask for her opinion. Ling Qinyu didn't refuse. She felt that since they would often meet in the future, there was no harm in getting to know each other now. The two of them went downstairs after a little tidying up. When they just walked out of the female dorm, they saw Xiao Qin and Jiamuzan standing not far away and chatting. Qing Minjing greeted them and walked over with Ling Qinyu. Hello, senior sister. When Xiao Qin first saw Ling Qinyu, he was a little shocked. He didn't think that she was the Miss Roommate. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? But after thinking about it, he understood the school's arrangement. They must have thought that both of them had a relationship with the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, so they put them together. Ling Qinyu nodded and said, Hello. I'm Yao Yao's roommate Ling Qinyu. Xiao Qin calmed down and extended his hand without batting an eyelid. Nice to meet you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Qing Yao Yao's boyfriend, Xiao Qin. In the future, please take care of our Yao Yao. Xiao Yi. Ling Qinyu repeated the name a few times. She felt that she had seen this guy before, but she couldn't remember where. She generously extended her hand and shook Xiao Qin's hand. Then she smiled and said, You're too polite. Actually, I'm quite happy to live with Yao Yao. Otherwise, it would be boring to live alone in an empty dorm. Regarding Ling Qinyu's temper, Xiao Qin knew it like the back of his hand. Seeing that she actually pretended to be a good girl, he couldn't help but laugh. But in the end, he forcefully held back and didn't laugh out loud. That being said, since Qing Minjing was living with Ling Qinyu, Xiao Qin was a lot more relieved. At least he knew Ling Qinyu. Although her personality was a bit unreasonable, her character was good and she wasn't a bad person. Hi, senior sister, hello. I'm Xiao Yi's roommate, Jianghu. Please take care of me. Jianghu was a bit nervous and stuttered. He had heard a lot about Ling Qinyu. She was the campus belle of Lanqing University. He didn't expect that he would have the opportunity to see her in person as soon as he entered the university. It was really exciting. Jianghu originally wanted to learn from Xiao Qin and extend his hand to shake the goddess's delicate hand. But after mustering up his courage for a long time, he didn't dare to extend his hand. Hello. Ling Qinyu slightly smiled. She had seen this kind of situation too many times, so she didn't care too much about Jianghu's reaction. Well, since everyone knows each other, let's go eat. Xiao Qin said and then led Jianghu to the direction of the cafeteria. Ling Qinyu and Qing Menjing followed behind them and chatted about some topics that girls were interested in. Xiao Yi? Jianghu whispered on the side. Huh? What's wrong? Xiao Qin looked at him in confusion. This guy has been secretly turning his head from time to time. Could it be that he fell in love with Ling Qinyu? Chapter 888. What's wrong with you? That Ling Qinyu is a great beauty. How come you don't seem to be moved at all? Could it be that there's something wrong with your physiology? Jianghu didn't really fall in love. He also knew that it was impossible for him to have any relationship with Ling Qinyu. But such a beautiful woman, it was good to see a few more times. F*CKU. If there's something wrong with my physiology, why would I have a girlfriend? It's just because I've seen so many beautiful women that I've already cultivated to the point of immunity. Xiao Qin shook his head disapprovingly. He thought to himself, the beauty in your eyes, even her breasts and buttocks have been seen by me. How could I be as thirsty as you? I've heard that there's a type of gays who cheat marriage. They look normal on the surface but in fact they like men in their hearts. Don't tell me you belong to this type of person? Jianghu didn't believe Xiao Qin's nonsense. He teased him with a funny face. He even deliberately stood a little further away from Xiao Qin as if he was afraid. F*CK, a 24K pure gold 300% straight man like me, how can I cheat marriage? What are you thinking about in your head? Can you say something more nutritious? Xiao Qin laughed and scolded. He found that there was something wrong with Jianghu's brain circuit, so he didn't bother to talk to him anymore. After walking for a while they arrived at the cafeteria. Because there were a lot of freshmen who came to report, and because it was mealtime, the first floor of the cafeteria was full. There were no empty seats at all. Xiao Qin thought that since there were 4 of them eating, it was quite cost-effective to order dishes, so he led everyone to the second floor. However, what surprised Xiao Qin was that there were no empty seats on the second floor, and the private rooms here required a minimum of 1,000 yuan. After all, the cafeteria of the university was outsourced, and opening the door was also to make money. Xiao Qin originally wanted to bite the bullet and enter the private room to eat a good meal, but when he called the waiter he found out that there was only one private room left and it had been booked. This time Xiao Qin was a little depressed. People say that a hero is stumped by a penny, but now a hero is stumped by a table. Huh? Wasn't this Jinyu? What a coincidence. We're really fated. Just when everyone was looking at each other, not knowing what to do, someone suddenly ran over from a table in the corner and said happily, Jinyu, you're here to eat, right? You see there are no seats left. Why don't you sit at my table? There's an empty seat. Xiao Qin took a closer look. Wasn't that Jing Shiding? Who would have thought that he'd run into Lanqing University's cafeteria twice? What a coincidence. There's no need to trouble yourself. I came here with a few friends. We can just wait a little longer. Ling Qinyu rejected indifferently. The smile on her face had also disappeared. Clearly she was very unhappy with Zheng Shiding's appearance. Oh, who are they? Zheng Shiding turned around in surprise and saw that there were 2 men and a woman standing beside Ling Qinyu. However, they were all unfamiliar faces and he had never seen them before. Zheng Shiding couldn't be blamed for not paying attention to them. With Ling Qinyu around, everyone would subconsciously ignore the ordinary people around her. They could only blame Ling Qinyu for being too dazzling. Hello, I'm senior sister Qinyu's roommate Qing Yaoyao. This is my boyfriend Xiao Yi and this is his roommate Jianghu. Qing Menjing didn't quite understand the situation. She could only point at Xiao Qin and Jianghu respectively and introduce them. We've just entered the university, so we're here for a meal. Welcome, welcome. Since we've met, it's a kind of fate. Instead of standing here and starving, why don't I be the host and treat everyone to a meal? Zheng Shiding was especially enthusiastic. He looked around and pointed to the other side and said, Isn't there an empty room over there? Let's go eat there. Without waiting for Cheng Menjing and the others to speak, Zheng Shiding directly called the waiter over with a forthright expression. I want that room. Go and bring me one of the best and most expensive dishes, hurry up. The reason why Zheng Shiding volunteered to treat them to a meal was mainly to win over Cheng Menjing. Although Cheng Menjing's appearance wasn't that outstanding, she was Ling Qinyu's roommate. If he could make Cheng Menjing happy, she would help him put in a few good words to Ling Qinyu in private. Then capturing Miss Ling's heart wouldn't be a dream anymore. I'm sorry, sir. That room has already been reserved. Can you wait a little longer? The waiter was also very helpless. He didn't expect business to be so good today. All the seats were full. *CK your grandpa. It's almost past lunchtime and I don't see anyone coming to this room. Could it be that it was reserved by a ghost? Are you messing with me? When Zheng Shiding was stopped by the waiter, he immediately felt a little embarrassed. He originally wanted to show off in front of everyone, but he didn't expect that he would be directly rejected. This made him very embarrassed, so his tone was very unfriendly. The waiter was in a difficult position. In their line of work, they naturally knew that some customers couldn't be offended. For example, Zheng Shiding in front of them was the young master of an aristocratic family in Lan City. Normally they had to treat him like a big boss. However, the person who reserved the room today also had a powerful background. They couldn't afford to offend either side. What, this and that? Stop wasting time. Can't you see that my friend is hungry? Hurry up and serve the dishes. Zheng Shiding waved his hand and glared at the waiter impatiently. Yo, young master Zheng is quite arrogant, huh? This room was reserved by this young master. If you have any problems, come at me. Is it very satisfying to vent your anger on the waiter? Just when the waiter was in a dilemma, a gentle male voice suddenly sounded. Zheng Shiding turned his head and saw that it was his archenemy Shui Gao walking over. Behind him were two pretty girls. At this moment, Shui Gao was looking at him with a teasing gaze. Zheng Shiding became angry when he saw Shui Gao. Both of them were tyrants in Lan City University. However, because of their different temperaments, they never got along. Originally, they minded their own business, but recently they had frequent conflicts. The reason was that the Zheng family and Shui family behind them were at loggerheads. Originally, the former was in the hotel and import and export trade business, while the latter was in the real estate business. Logically speaking, they shouldn't be related. However, the patriarchs of the two families had their eyes on a piece of land. In order to obtain the right to use that piece of land, the two families fought openly and covertly countless times. However, they were evenly divided, and no one was able to gain any advantage. That piece of land was still lying there. In the end, when the two families saw that there was no way to solve the problem, they could only choose to put the matter aside for now. On the surface, everything was calm and they were busy with their own business. However, in the dark, both sides were looking for opportunities to destroy the other. I was wondering who was bragging so much. I didn't expect that it was young Master Shui who booked the private room. I didn't expect you to be in such a good mood. It's fine if you play with prostitutes outside the university, but you actually brought them to the university's cafeteria to eat. Should I say, is it better for you to sully the campus, or is it better for you to perform as an art? Zheng Shiding snorted lightly and said in a sarcastic tone. Shui Gao, who appeared to be gentle, virtuous, thrifty, elegant, and charming, was actually doing dirty things behind the scenes. Others might not know about it, but Zheng Shiding was very clear about it. Looking at the two girls behind Shui Gao, one of them was wearing very revealing clothes, and although the other looked relatively pure, he reckoned that she wasn't any better. According to Shui Gao's playful nature, Zheng Shiding concluded that the two girls behind him were prostitutes. However, he was puzzled as to why Shui Gao would bring them to the cafeteria to eat. Wasn't this a disgrace? However, these two girls were quite good-looking. He didn't know where Shui Gao found these two high-quality goods. Could it be that he wanted to bring them out to show off? Xiao Qin originally stood at the side silently, but when he saw the two girls behind Shui Gao, he realized that they were actually Su Chuxia and Tian Shaoring. Then, when he heard Zheng Shiding ridiculing them, he immediately felt a little unhappy. Hey, what did you say? Before Xiao Qin could react, Tian Shaoring couldn't hold it in anymore. She pointed at Zheng Shiding and scolded, "You bastard, how dare you insult Sister Shaoring? You're the prostitute. No, you're the duck, your whole family are ducks." Tian Shaoring was about to explode. Originally, she only wanted to eat with Su Chuxia, but the cafeteria was full. The two of them could only stand at the entrance and wait for seats. In the end, they were caught by Shui Gao. This guy coaxed and pestered them, wanting to treat them to a meal. He patted his chest and guaranteed that he had already booked a private room. Tian Xiaoring didn't know what was wrong with her. She actually wanted to set him up so that he would back off. After much effort, she finally persuaded Su Chuxia to go upstairs, but she didn't expect to be humiliated by this random guy. She was so unlucky. B*TC. I think you're looking for death. Zheng Shiding had never been humiliated like this before. He was instantly infuriated. He rushed over and raised his hand to slap Tian Xiaoring. Some time ago, under the guidance of Shi Yuchuan, Zheng Shiding had been promoted to a stage 4 inner force warrior. He thought it would be a piece of cake to teach a weak girl a lesson. However, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and directly blocked his raised palm. Young Master Zheng, I realize that you're quite capable. You actually hit a woman. You're quite skilled. Shuigao narrowed his eyes and sneered. He shook off Zheng Shiding's hand and turned to Ling Qinyu with a faint smile. Qinyu, I advise you to stay away from young Master Zheng. His character is so bad that he might hit you one day. It doesn't matter if you're pretty or not. Xiaoqin took another step back. When he saw that Zheng Shiding was about to hit Tian Xiaoring, he subconsciously wanted to rush out. However, just as he moved, he saw Shuigao blocking his way. Only then did Xiaoqin stop. Chapter 889. Luckily, his movements were small and everyone's attention was on Zheng Shiding and Tian Xiaoring, so no one noticed him. You, don't slander me. Zheng Shiding's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly explained to Ling Qinyu, Qinyu, don't listen to that Shui guy's nonsense. I will definitely treat you well in the future and I won't use violence. Don't worry. If you don't believe me, I can swear. Zheng Shiding, who was busy explaining, was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He cursed in his heart, that damn B*Tish must have colluded with Shuigao. She purposely provoked me to hit him, and wanted me to embarrass myself in front of Ling Qinyu. I must find someone to teach that B*Tch a lesson. Zheng Shiding didn't think that if he hadn't mocked her as a prostitute, Tian Xiaoring wouldn't have retorted. In his eyes, it was all her fault. Zheng Shiding, what nonsense are you talking about? I have nothing to do with you. I just want to have a meal with my classmates, can you not cause trouble? Ling Qinyu frowned and her face was very unfriendly. She hated Zheng Shiding to death. This guy dared to spout nonsense in front of everyone in the cafeteria. If anyone really took it seriously and spread it, there would be trouble. Yes. Let's eat first. Zheng Shiding thought he had caught Ling Qinyu's main point, which was to hint that he shouldn't quarrel in public. He quickly wiped the beads of sweat off his forehead and shouted to the waiter, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and open up the private room and ask the chef to make some dishes. Don't dawdle, hurry up. Can't you see that we are all hungry? The waiter, who was standing dumbly at the side, suddenly came to his senses. He didn't dare to delay and nodded repeatedly. He was just an employee and he couldn't afford to offend anyone. He could only do as Zheng Shiding said and turned around to leave. Wait. Shuigao blocked the waiter's path and said with a sullen face, what do you mean? I paid $1,000 as a deposit for this private room, how dare you transfer it to him without permission? Did you ask for my permission? Do you believe that I won't lodge a complaint against you? Damn it. Stop pretending to be a big-tailed wolf. Isn't it just 1,000 yuan? Zheng Shiding took out a stack of cash from his pocket and handed it to the waiter. He said casually, take it. Here's $5,000. Return that kid's deposit to him and pay him another $1,000 as compensation for his brain damage. The rest of it will be food money. As Zheng Shiding spoke, he pointed at Shuigao with his chin and snorted contemptuously. Do you think I'm a beggar? I'll pay 10,000. This private room belongs to me. You have 1 minute to leave. At this moment, Shuigao no longer cared about his image as an ice cream senior. He gnashed his teeth and roared. Would he be afraid of competing in terms of wealth? He and Zheng Shiding were both direct descendants of a large family in Lan City. Their families were strong and powerful so they could spend as much money as they wanted. Most importantly, Shuigao was also a stage 4 inner force martial artist. I'll pay 20,000. I'll pay 30,000. The two of them argued until their faces turned red. As the onlookers, Xiao Chen and the others stared at the two of them as if they were idiots. They must have not taken their medicine before going out. Ling Qinyu and Cheng Minjing looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Then they smiled at the same time. The two of them seemed to have become closer because of their common hatred for a common enemy. Su Chuxia lowered her head as if she wanted to stare at the floor of the cafeteria. On the other hand, Tian Suruan was looking around in boredom. She wanted to see if there were any good-looking guys in Lan City University's cafeteria, but she was sure that Xiao Qiangshui wasn't there, so she decided to forget about it. When her gaze landed on Jia Muzin's face, she couldn't help but be stunned. Jia Muzin felt Tian Suruan's gaze and looked over as well. Their eyes met. For some reason, Tian Suruan suddenly hid behind Su Chuxia and hid her face. Seeing that Tian Suruan wasn't looking at him anymore, Jia Muzin also retracted his gaze. However, he felt a little strange. That sexy beauty just now seemed rather familiar. Where had he seen her before? However, Jia Muzin quickly shook his head and denied his own thoughts. He had just arrived at Lan City University, so how could he have seen her before? Perhaps there was a certain tan female star who looked very similar to Tian Suruan in the Japanese action movies he watched in the past. That was why he felt a sense of déjà vu. I say, young masters, we're still hungry. How about this, let's eat together. Anyway, the private room is big enough for so many people to sit in. Why don't we just use the money to eat? Zheng Shiding and Shui Gao were still raising the price. Xiao Chen couldn't stand it anymore and spoke up to stop them. The two of them finally stopped bidding. They felt that Xiao Chen's words made sense when they thought about it. After all, they were both descendants of aristocratic families with deep pockets. Who was short of money? If they continued bidding like this, it would be pointless even if the sky turned dark. Moreover, the purpose of the two of them bidding was to treat their goddess to a meal. At this moment they finally realized that Ling Qinyu, Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan all had ugly expressions on their faces. They seemed to be on the verge of exploding. What was the point of bidding then? Hurry up and eat. Making their goddess happy was the most important thing at hand. Alright. For the sake of junior brother, this young master won't argue with you today. Zheng Shiding waved his hand and walked directly toward Ling Qinyu. He politely invited her and Cheng Menjing into the private room. Ling Qinyu couldn't be bothered to say anything more. Since Xiao Chen had come to mediate, she and Cheng Menjing didn't object. They walked toward the direction of the private room. Jia Muzin secretly gave Xiao Chen a thumbs up and followed. Shui Gao snorted coldly. This private room originally belonged to this young master. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll allocate some seats to you. After he finished speaking, he quickly beckoned Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan into the private room. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to get a good seat if he was late. Su Chuxia originally wanted to reject him, but considering that there was really no other place to eat, she had no choice but to accept Shui Gao's invitation. However, the waitress was a little depressed. When Zheng Shiding and Shui Gao were bidding against each other, she was still hoping to earn more money. Originally, if the price was really raised, she would have gotten a lot of commission. In the end, she didn't even get a single cent. If she had known earlier, she would have agreed to Zheng Shi's 5,000 yuan. Waitress, come over here. I'll order. Xiao Chen stood at the door of the private room and called out to the waitress. The waitress came back to her senses and hurried over. She didn't have the life to become rich, so it was better for her to be a waitress. After everyone sat down in the private room, Xiao Chen walked in after ordering the dishes. He casually stood in front of the table and said, I've already ordered the dishes. The two young masters were very generous just now, but in order to show your sincerity and generosity, please take out all the cash you have on you. Otherwise, if you don't have money and want to act shamelessly after the meal, everyone will look down on you. Of course. Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding hurriedly nodded. How could they dare to say that they weren't sincere and generous? Moreover, when it was time to pay the bill, the two of them might fight again. It was better to put the money together now. The two of them dug into their pockets, and not only did they put all their money on the table, but they also asked the men behind them to take out their spare cash. Not long after, the table was filled with a thick stack of cash. Oh, it seems like the two young masters are very generous. Not bad, not bad. In order to prevent the two of you from going back on your words and withdrawing your investment, I'll take care of the money first. After dinner I'll pay the bill. The students here can be the notary, is that okay? Xiao Chen's hands were very fast. Without waiting for the two of them to agree, he said as he put all the money on the table into his own pocket. Of course. Of course. Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding were too embarrassed to object. Since they had already taken out the money, why would they care about who they put it in? Moreover, their goddesses were watching from the side. They definitely couldn't act too cowardly. Otherwise, how could they raise their heads in front of their goddesses in the future? The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth rose slightly. In his heart, he despised Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding. These two idiots really want to save face and suffer. It seems like when I don't have money in the future, I can find another opportunity to cheat them. Not long after he put the money away, the waiters served the dishes one after another. After standing for so long, everyone was so hungry that their chests were sticking to their backs. No longer polite, they raised their chopsticks and attacked the dishes in front of them. Among them, Xiao Chen and Tian Suruan ate the most. They completely disregarded their table manners and gobbled down the food like hungry tigers. Junior Chuxia, after lunch I'll show you around the campus, okay? Since you're new here, I'm sure you're not familiar with the environment of Lanqing University. I happen to have some time, so I'll be your tour guide. Shuigao put on a gentlemanly smile and volunteered to Su Chuxia. Based on Shuigao's judgment of girls, he felt that Su Chuxia was definitely not a gold digger. It was impossible to win a girl's heart with money. The only way to win her heart was to take it one step at a time and create an image of a gentle and considerate senior. As for Tian Suruan, it might be easier. All he had to do was treat her to a few good meals and buy her some luxurious items. Therefore, Shuigao pondered for a while and decided to start with the harder one. This. Just as Su Chuxia was considering how to decline, Tian Suruan suddenly spoke up. Chuxia, Sister Suruan wants to eat that braised beef. Can you help me turn the dish over? Suruan, eat slowly. No one's fighting with you over it. Su Chuxia took the opportunity to change the topic. She glanced at Tian Suruan and reached out to turn the glass dish on the table. Su Chuxia watched as Tian Suruan nibbled on a fried chicken drumstick with her left hand and stuffed a piece of beef into her mouth with her right hand. She looked as if she hadn't eaten for days. Su Chuxia couldn't help but find it funny and annoying at the same time. Chapter 890. Why isn't anyone fighting with me? Look at that damn otaku across from me. He's eating even harder than I am. He's almost finished that plate of beef. If I don't turn around, I won't be able to eat any more. Tian Suruan pointed at Xiao Chen and said angrily, Hey! Who are you? Are you a pig? I haven't even eaten that plate of braised pork ribs. You're here to freeload yet you're so shameless. Sister Suruan really has to give it to you. Oh, you're here to freeload too, right? How dare you talk to me like that? Xiao Chen's mouth was stuffed with food as he retorted in a muffled voice. He then grabbed a piece of braised pork ribs and started gnawing on it. He then pushed the plate and spun another plate of double-cooked pork in front of him. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. You're pissing me off. You brat, how dare you snatch the food that Sister Suruan wants to eat? Tian Sour was so angry that he spun the wheel with all his might. In the end, he heard a bang, and the big bowl of hot and sour soup on the table was knocked over. It landed directly between Zheng Shiding's thighs. Ouch! Caught off guard, Zheng Shiding had no time to dodge. His lower body was almost cooked by the boiling hot soup, but he was too embarrassed to touch it with his hands. He could only stand up and wriggle unnaturally as he wailed in pain. Water. Quick, give me water. Hearing Zheng Shiding's pain cries, Xiao Chen, who was closest to him, put down the food in his hands. He picked up a pot of boiling water from the corner and rushed over. He then opened the lid and splashed the water all over Zheng Shiding's lower body. Ah! Zheng Shiding had already shaken off the soup on his pants. In the end, he was scalded by the boiling water and screamed in pain. He fell to the ground, clutching his lower body. His face was pale and twisted as he hissed and gasped. Brat! How dare you splash young Master Zheng with boiling water? Are you looking for death? On the other side, the monkey-like follower was shocked. He quickly ran over to help Zheng Shiding up and scolded Xiao Chen loudly. He said he wanted water. There was only a pot of water nearby, and I didn't know if it was boiling or cold water. The situation was so urgent, how could you blame me? Xiao Chen shrugged and said innocently. Never mind, never mind. Little brother Xiao did not do it on purpose. It's my fault for not being clear. Zheng Shiding said through gritted teeth. He was glad that he was a stage 4 inner force martial artist. Otherwise, his little brother would have been crippled. After being helped up by the pointy-mouthed, monkey-like underling, Zheng Shiding saw that his clothes were a complete mess and that a certain part of his body was still aching. It seemed that he would not be able to finish the meal, but he did not want to give up the opportunity to eat with his goddess, Ling Qianyu. He could only force a smile and said, You guys eat first, I'll go back and change my clothes before coming back. Although Shuigao was ignored by Su Chuxia, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. When he came in just now, he wanted to switch places with Zheng Shiding so that he could chat with Su Chuxia up close. Fortunately, he didn't do that. Otherwise he would be the one in trouble. Ding dong. Ding dong. Looking at Jing Shiding's back as he left the private room, Shuigao thought about asking Su Chuxia out again. However, before he could say anything, he suddenly heard the announcement from the school's broadcasting station. Dear students, we are now broadcasting an announcement. We are sorry to learn that our student Lu Renmao passed away early this morning due to a terminal illness. Although Lu Renmao knew that he was ill, he continued to study in the hospital. He is our role model for learning and our thirst for knowledge. In order to let everyone learn from Lu Renmao's spirit, the school has decided to organize a memorial ceremony. All students, please wear your school uniform, gather at the school gate at 2 p.m. sharp and take a bus to the funeral home. If there are any special circumstances, please apply for leave from your tutor. Those who do not show up for no special reason will have 10 credits deducted. All class leaders please inform each other. Again, after hearing the announcement, Shuigao was puzzled. Although the school would organize some activities every year that required group participation, it had never been so strict. This time, those who did not go would have their credits deducted. Wasn't they trying to kill themselves? As a hedonistic son of a rich family, Shuigao spent most of his time playing around and picking up girls. He rarely studied, so he did not have many credits. He only got his credits by asking people to make cheat sheets during exams. In order to maintain his image as senior Shuigao, he naturally would not violate the school's rules. Although he did not want to go, he was the class leader, so he had to go. Why is it so troublesome? Shuigao raised his wrist to look at his watch. It was already 1:30. He could only helplessly say, Chuxia Sour, I'm really sorry about today. I'm the class leader and I have to organize activities for the students. I'll treat you guys to a meal another day. After saying that, Shuigao stood up and ran out without looking back. Anyway, all his money was with Xiao Qin, so paying the bill was none of his business. Since everyone is done eating, I'll go out and settle the bill. It'll be troublesome if I can't make it in time for the school activities. Seeing that it was almost time, Xiao Qin left the private room with the money and went to the counter to pay the bill. Chuxia, wait for me at the entrance of the cafeteria. I'll be right back after I use the restroom. Tian Sour rolled her eyes and stood up. Without waiting for Su Chuxia's reply, she ran out behind Xiao Qin. Yao, I'm going back to the dormitory to change as well. You guys are freshmen, so you don't need to wear school uniforms. Let's meet outside the school gates. Ling Qinyu also needed to change, so she left first. Although the meal was not very enjoyable, Ling Qinyu did not mind. After all, she was going to be Qing Yaoyao's roommate in the future. If she wanted to eat, there would be plenty of opportunities. The remaining 3 people in the private room looked at each other and smiled helplessly at the same time. They did not say much and simply exchanged a few words before leaving. Student, after the discount, the total cost is 2,000 yuan. This is the bill, please check it. The waiter handed over a bill and placed it in front of Xiao Qin. Oh, there's no need to check it. There's no problem with the bill. Xiao Qin waved his hand nonchalantly. He ordered 2,000 yuan and passed it to the waiter. Just as he was counting the rest of the money, he felt someone pat his shoulder. He turned around and saw that it was Tian Sour. Hey, this money should be at least half of Sister Sour's, right? Tian Sour stared at the thick stack of money in Xiao Qin's hand. Her eyes were almost shining. Why should I give it to you? Xiao Qin found it funny, but he asked seriously on the surface. He even showed a trace of doubt at the right time. Sister Sour was scolded. If it wasn't for Sister Sour, you wouldn't have been able to get so much money, right? Be sensible. I don't think you're stupid. You should know the rules, right? Tian Sour said casually. Oh, then I'll give you 1/10. Xiao Qin said half-jokingly. After all, Tian Sour was not an outsider. In the past, he would have given all the money to her. However, he was in need of money now, so he could not be so generous. No way. Tian Sour shook her head and rejected. Sister Sour sacrificed so much. You should at least give me half to comfort my broken heart. Since you sound so pitiful, then I'll give you 1/3. No more than that, Xiao Qin said with a smile. Then we'll both take a step back and give Sister Sour 2/5. No less than that, or Sister Sour won't let you off. Seeing that Xiao Qin would not budge no matter what and his tone was firm, Tian Sour could only make what she thought was the biggest concession. All right. You're really a miser. Xiao Qin smiled and shook his head. He counted the money and passed it to Tian Sour. What did you say? Tian Sour only cared about the money and did not listen carefully. She thought that Xiao Qin was teasing her. Nothing. I said you're pretty okay? Xiao Qin said helplessly. This Tian Sour only knew how to stare at money. She was about to dig her way into the money. Don't think Sister Sour doesn't know that you want to pursue me, right? Chapter 891. She had never worn a sailor suit in her entire life. In the past, she heard that only schools in Japan had this kind of clothing, but she didn't expect Lanqing University to have it too. Yeah. Xiao Qun looked at Ling Qinyu's fair thighs and couldn't help but let his imagination run wild as he answered absent-mindedly. Although he had already seen her body, he didn't expect this little girl to have a different flavor in a sailor suit. It was especially tempting. What are you thinking about? You're almost drooling. You look like a pig, so disgusting. Qing Minjing said with a face full of disdain. She muttered in her heart, I don't see Xiao Qun staring at me like this when I usually wear a short skirt. I really don't know what's going on in his head. Stinky pervert. Cough cough. Everyone loves beauty. How can it be called disgusting? This is called appreciation. Xiao Qun subconsciously swallowed his saliva and weakly defended himself. Stop it. I think you're just being cheap. You must have feelings for senior sister Ling Qinyu. Otherwise, why would you sit in the same school bus as her? Qing Minjing snorted and said in a low voice. Didn't I follow you up? Xiao Qun said with an innocent face. However, he still withdrew his gaze and stopped staring at Ling Qinyu. Otherwise, the miss would definitely explode. Tsk. Only a ghost would believe you. Qing Minjing gave Xiao Qun a big eye roll and turned her head to look at the scenery outside the bus. She couldn't be bothered to bicker with Xiao Qun anymore. Half an hour later, a group of school buses stopped outside the funeral parlor. Students from different majors were looking for their majors' counselors to sign in. Meanwhile, Xiao Qun and the others directly signed in the freshmen's books. Anyway, as freshmen who had just entered the school, it didn't matter if they came or not. No one would purposely check on them. Huh. Are Shuigao and Jing Shiding from the XX major here? Basically all the students had their names taken. One of the counselors with the surname Zhao took a few steps forward and shouted, Are Shuigao and Jing Shiding here? If you don't come, your points will be deducted. After shouting for a while, Counselor Zhao still didn't see the two appear. He shook his head and was about to write down their names when he heard a loud engine sound coming from afar. Everyone looked up in surprise when they heard the sound. On the road not far away, a red Ferrari sports car and a black Lamborghini sports car were driving over at lightning speed. The two cars seemed to be competing with each other as they advanced side by side. Then, with a beautiful drift, they stopped steadily in front of the funeral home. The car doors opened at the same time, and Shuigao and Jing Shiding jumped out of the two cars. Their movements were synchronized, and they both took something out of the car and quickly ran towards Counselor Zhao. Wait. Counselor Zhao, please be lenient. I only went to prepare the clothes. I was not absent. Please don't give me a demerit. Shuigao ran until he was out of breath. He was so tired that he looked like a grandson. His skin, which was originally like ice cream, was now as white as paper. I'm not absent either. Please be merciful. Jing Shiding was also in a hurry. He ran to Counselor Zhao and panted heavily. Shuigao, Jing Shiding, are the two of you deaf? Didn't you hear what the radio said? Counselor Zhao looked at the two of them and his eyes were about to bleed. He shouted at the top of his lungs. I heard it. Didn't they ask us to wear mourning clothes to show our respect to our classmates? If it wasn't for the custom-made clothes, why didn't I catch the bus? Shuigao replied with some confusion. Then he subconsciously glanced around and was stunned on the spot. They asked you to wear the school's uniform. Who asked you to wear mourning clothes? Look at you guys, you even made a banner. Don't you think it's embarrassing enough? Counselor Zhao was so angry that he almost fainted when he saw the banner on the two shoulders. He clenched his teeth and said word by word. Didn't the radio say to wear mourning clothes? Jing Shiding also realized that something was wrong. The other students around him were wearing the school's standard uniform. Only he and Shuigao were different. They wore mourning clothes and wore mourning clothes. Their bodies were covered in white cloth, and they even had two banners made for them. Oh my God. Are these two guys' heads pierced? Do they think they have to wear mourning clothes at the funeral parlor? That's right. I think they're stupid. They can be considered the two weirdos of Lan City University. Oh my God, are they here to mess things up? Can they mess around like this just because their families are rich? They're too disrespectful. I'm going to take photos and post them on campus, WeChat Moments and Weibo. I'm going to expose these two idiots' shameful acts. The surrounding students were a little angry. They took out their phones to take photos of the two and kept criticizing their behavior. It was supposed to be a good farewell ceremony, but these two actually made such a mess. Wasn't this not letting people leave with peace of mind? Counselor Zhao was so angry that his face turned purple. He pointed at the two and scolded while trembling, "Go back and call your fathers over. I'd like to ask them how they managed to raise sons like you. This is a disgrace to the culture. They must have gone crazy from wanting to be famous. They actually did something like this. Don't they know what kind of environment they're in? What two idiots?" Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, making the others even angrier. How could Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding not understand that they heard wrongly? The two were very embarrassed. They wished there was a hole in the ground to hide in. They stood there not knowing what to do. Although there were spare clothes in the car, they were surrounded by angry students and couldn't get out at all. Damn it. They're really too much. They're simply smearing the face of us Lan City University students. If we don't beat them up, we'll be letting down student Lu who passed away. Someone in the crowd shouted. Following that, two whooshing sounds were heard. Two bricks flew over and accurately hit the heads of the two filial sons. Ah! Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding howled in pain and held their heads. They were both martial artists, but they couldn't understand how their heads could be smashed by bricks. Blood flowed out uncontrollably. Right? We must beat them up. Everyone, let's go. The eyes of a few male students in the front row turned red. They waved their fists and took the lead to rush over. The rest of the students were also in high spirits. They swarmed over and started punching and kicking the two. Don't hit me. Shui Gao could only feel the overwhelming number of punches and kicks coming at him. He could only cover his face with his hands and roll on the ground. Spare me. I was wrong. Zheng Shiding still wanted to escape. However, the moment he lifted one of his legs, he was instantly knocked down. His begging voice was quickly drowned in the crowd. The few teachers present didn't react at first. Later, they realized that the situation wasn't good. They quickly rushed into the crowd to maintain order. If Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding were beaten up, the school wouldn't be able to escape responsibility. In fact, the ones who were really beating people up were the ones who took the lead. The rest of them were just stabbing and kicking occasionally. Therefore, the chaos at the scene was quickly brought under control. A few teachers pulled Shui Gao and Zheng Shiding out of the crowd and covered them as they left. These students are too cruel. How can they hit people? They even hit them with bricks. What if they accidentally killed them? Qing Minjing, who was standing in the distance, frowned and said with lingering fear. She had always disliked this kind of violent behavior. Therefore, she didn't go near them. They are clearly disrespecting the dead. If they are beaten to death, they should be directly sent to the funeral parlor. Anyway, they are at the entrance. It will be easy to carry them in. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth curled up. He smiled coldly and said, That's not right. I seem to have seen the two bricks fly in from outside the crowd. Could it be? Qing Minjing held her chin and thought for a while. She suddenly raised her head and stared at Xiao Chen. You were the one who did it, right? I seem to have sensed a trace of essence energy coming from your body. Were you the one who threw those bricks? No matter what, Qing Minjing was also a cultivator. Her sixth senses were quite strong. She didn't pay attention to it before, but now that she thought about it, she could naturally feel that something was wrong. Oh, it seems that you have made a lot of progress. You even know how to use your divine sense to explore the surroundings. You are indeed a good disciple that I have taught. Xiao Chen nodded seriously. He seemed to be very satisfied with Qing Minjing's performance. Go to hell. I am not your disciple. I am a self-taught genius cultivator. No, I am an invincible super genius cultivator in the universe. Qing Minjing said with a proud face. Well, you are a genius. Looking at the other students who had calmed down and began to line up one after another, walking into the funeral parlor to pay their respects, Xiao Chen said, Miss, let's go in too. Qing Minjing didn't object. She had just been praised by Xiao Chen and was in a very good mood. She had already forgotten her previous suspicions and obediently followed him to line up at the back of the line. The entire funeral ceremony lasted for several hours before it ended. The school still sent the students back to Lan City University by bus. By the time they arrived at the school, it was already dinner time. Xiao Chen and Qing Minjing were tired after running around for the whole day. The two of them went to the cafeteria to eat something before returning to their respective dormitories. As soon as Xiao Chen entered the door, he saw Jiang Yuzhen sitting on the bed. In his hand was an ancient martial arts manual, and he was reading it with great interest. Xiao Chen casually greeted him. He felt that he was unbearably tired from the past few days. He couldn't be bothered to look at the manual in detail. He directly went to his bed and fell asleep. Dong dong dong. Not long after he lay down, Xiao Chen was awakened by a series of knocks on the door. He was very puzzled. Who would come to visit so late at night? It couldn't be Miss Cheng, right? Jianghu put down the book. Perhaps he was afraid of disturbing Xiao Chen's sleep, so he quickly ran over and opened the door. However, when he saw the person standing outside the door, he was stunned. It was actually Tian Suruan. Why is she here? Chapter 892. Ever since she saw Jianghu in the cafeteria at noon, Tian Suruan had been worried sick. She was also absent-minded during the memorial service in the afternoon. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that he might have recognized her. In fact, Tian Suruan had a secret in her heart. She had only mentioned it to Su Chuxia and no one else knew about it. Originally, she had planned to talk to Xiao Chang about it, but in order to prevent Xiao Chang from being implicated, she decided to keep it a secret. From high school to university, as time passed, Tian Suruan felt more and more that her good days were numbered. She thought that she could spend her beautiful university days with Su Chuxia, but she didn't expect to bump into Jianghu right after entering university. This made her even more suspicious. After thinking about it for a long time, Tian Suruan finally couldn't suppress the doubts in her heart. She decided that she had to find out the truth. Otherwise, it would be too uncomfortable to keep it to herself. So, at night, she found out Jianghu's dormitory and secretly came to his door. Hello, who are you looking for? After staring at Tian Suruan for a long time, Jianghu finally managed to speak. At this time, his heart was surging. He didn't expect that the sexy beauty who had lunch with him in the cafeteria would come to his door. Could it be that I got lucky with the ladies? No way. How could a beautiful woman like me who has such a loser's appearance? She must be looking for Xiao Yi, but Xiao Yi has a girlfriend. He introduced her at noon, so she should know. Could it be that she wants to be a mistress? But Xiao Yi isn't that good looking. Sister Suruan has something to ask you. Don't be shy like a girl. Let's go in first. Jianghu was still standing there, daydreaming, when Tian Suruan had already pushed open the door and swaggered in. Jianghu came back to his senses and quickly followed behind her. He thought to himself, so she has something to ask me? What is it? Could it be that she wants to ask me if I can be her boyfriend? Isn't this miser Suruan? What business do you have in my dormitory? Although Xiao Chen was in the room, he could clearly hear the conversation outside the door. Originally, he subconsciously thought that he had been recognized by Tian Suruan and was thinking about how to explain it. He did not expect that this chick was actually looking for Jianghu. Why are you here? Tian Shosho frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he suddenly realized, oh right. Sourly Sour Sis finally remembered. You're roommates with this four-eyed guy. Look at you, you already have a girlfriend, why are you still living with a guy? Could it be that you're gay? Why are you asking so many questions? Are you alright? If there's nothing else, hurry back. Don't disturb my sleep in the middle of the night. Xiao Chen retorted snappily. However, he was a little puzzled. What was Tian Sour up to? It didn't seem like she had seen through him. Could it be that she really had something to talk to him about? Sleep your head. Tian Tang snorted and glared at Xiao Chen. You're not allowed to sleep. Sourly Sour Sis has something to ask that four-eyed guy. Go out and hide for a while. Go find your girlfriend and have a go or something. In short, don't be a hindrance here, do you hear me? What the heck, this is my dormitory. It's fine if you want me to go out and say something nice to me, but you're being so rude. Do you believe that I won't reject you? Xiao Chen pretended to be angry. He did not really want to argue with Tian Shosho. He just wanted to tease her. He wanted to know why she was looking for Jianghu. Didn't the two of them just meet today? Could it be that Tian Shosho has fallen in love with someone else? Although the two of them were faking it, Xiao Chen still felt a little uncomfortable when he thought about it. That was why he asked so forcefully. You're not leaving? Do you think that if I shouted molest, would people come and surround me? This is the male dormitory. Tian Shosho did not care about Xiao Chen's anger. She purposely unbuttoned her collar and took 2 steps forward to threaten him. You win, let's wait and see. Looking at Tian Shosho's ferocious expression, Xiao Chen was speechless. He pretended to speak fiercely and walked out of the dormitory, not forgetting to close the door behind him. Hearing Xiao Chen's footsteps getting further and further away, Tian Shosho finally buttoned up her collar in satisfaction. She then stared at Jia Muzhen with a serious expression. Pretty lady, why are you looking for me? What do you want to ask me? I don't think we've met before? Jia Muzhen initially thought that he had a romantic encounter, but Tian Shosho's dangerous gaze made his hair stand on end. When had he ever encountered something like this before? He waited for a long time, but the other party did not speak. He could only break the silence and ask cautiously. Four-eyed guy, do you know me? Don't try to lie. Sister Sourly Sour isn't that easy to fool. Tian Shosho took a deep breath and asked unhurriedly. Her eyes were fixed on Jia Muzhen's face. Jia Muzhen was immediately dumbfounded. After being stunned for a long time, he hesitantly asked, That? I still don't quite understand. What do you mean? Can you explain it more clearly? F***me, why are you so stupid? Sister Sourly Sour just wants to know if you've seen me before. Don't you understand? Did you get into a university? Don't tell me you bought the letter of acceptance? Tian Shosho explained once more, speechless. Of course I don't know you. I've only been reporting to Lan City University for a few days. Moreover, I've never lived in Lan City before. Today is the first time I've seen you. How could we have met before? Jia Muzhen explained with a blank expression. He was indeed very puzzled. He did not understand why Tian Shosho would ask such a question. Then why did you stare at Sister Sourly Sour so lecherously this afternoon at the canteen? Could it be that you have some ulterior motives towards Sister Sourly Sour? Although Jia Muzhen did not seem to be lying, Tian Shosho was still a little worried. She persisted in her questioning. At that time I only felt that you looked a little familiar. However, after thinking about it for a while, I don't have any impression of you. Could it be that we've really met before? Jia Muzhen pushed up his spectacles and pondered for a while. However, he still could not recall anything and could only say so. He could not possibly say that he thought Tian Shosho looked like Avril, right? Although the sexy beauty in front of him looked a little familiar and seemed to have an impression in his mind, judging from her accent, she should be a standard Lan City citizen. Jia Muzhen's first impression was that he should not know her. Oh no, Sister Sourly Sour is just here to warn you. Don't even think about pursuing Sister Sourly Sour. I already have a boyfriend. Not only is he tall and handsome, he's also highly skilled in martial arts. He can kill you with a single punch. Tian Shosho was instantly reassured when she heard Jia Muzhen's words and said proudly. However, when she recalled Xiao Chong, she also faintly felt a little regretful. Sister Sourly Sour's boyfriend. Don't you know how much Sister Sourly Sour misses you? If you still don't show up, Sister Sourly Sour might not be able to see you anymore. I don't have such thoughts, really? Jia Muzhen felt depressed when he was warned instead of having a romantic encounter. He had no choice but to reply helplessly with a sullen expression. Well then it's fine. Go find a girlfriend. Masturbating all day isn't good for your body, and it also affects your eyesight. That's it, you useless four eyes. Tian Shosho's matter was settled and she couldn't be bothered to stay any longer. She waved her hand and turned to leave the dormitory. Xiao Chen actually didn't go far. He was leaning against the door and waiting. He happened to hear the conversation between the two clearly. When he heard Tian Shosho bid farewell to Jia Muzhen and was about to leave, he hurriedly ran to the stairs and pretended to have just returned. You're done so quickly? I didn't expect you to be such a quick shooter. I really feel sorry for your girlfriend. After opening the door and taking 2 steps, Tian Shosho saw Xiao Chen walking over and couldn't help but pout. On the surface, Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered with her. However, he smiled bitterly and shook his head in his heart. This Tian Shosho was still the same as before. She was always so neurotic. When others took a few more glances at her, she would think that the person liked her. She really felt good about herself. However, Xiao Chen didn't think much of it. He was dead tired. When he returned to the dormitory, he didn't plan to gossip with Jia Muzhen. Instead, he continued to cover his head and sleep. The next morning, Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen called Cheng Minjing and came to the classroom. Today was the day the freshmen's military training would begin, so they had to wake up early to report. As soon as they stepped into the classroom, they discovered that there were 2 more students in the class. They looked at each other with puzzled expressions. However, the one who was most surprised was still Xiao Chen. This was because he recognized at a glance that the 2 extra people were actually the Chick Xing and Ling Qianxue. Why did they come to Lan City University? Moreover, they also registered for the ancient martial arts major. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Could it be that his whereabouts were exposed? That new student looks quite familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere before? Jianghu suddenly muttered to himself. Then he carefully sized up the chick Xing for a while and frowned as he tried to recall. Xiao Chen was stunned. What kind of situation was this? Could it be that Jianghu was mistaken? How could he possibly know the chick Xing? Just as Xiao Chen was about to open his mouth to ask, Professor Zhong rushed in and said loudly, "Students, the first-year military training officially begins today. In 10 minutes, please go to the field to collect your uniforms and cloth shoes and report to the instructor." Xiao Chen hurriedly sat down with Jianghu and Cheng Menjing. Professor Zhong looked at the name list in his hand, then raised his head to look at the chick Xing and Ling Qianxue. He said, "Today there are 2 new students. They are Xing Gongzi and Ling Qianxue, right? You two introduce yourselves." "Hello everyone, I am Xing Gongzi." The chick Xing stood up and briefly introduced herself. Then she sat down expressionlessly. The temperature in the entire classroom dropped by several degrees. The chick Xing did not deliberately disguise herself this time, but she still appeared in men's clothing. The reason why she was able to enter this major was because she found the person who had actually taken the ancient martial arts major but had yet to report. Then she gave him 1,000,000 yuan. Chapter 893. Under the threat of money and force, the man took the money and naturally didn't come to class anymore. He gave his spot to Xingyu. Originally, the school wouldn't agree to this kind of substitution, but it couldn't stop Xing's strong background. Before she came, she directly used her sex connections in the secular world to find the person in charge of Lanqing University and gave the school a discount on some loan interest. In this way, the school couldn't be more grateful to her, so why would they bother with such trivial matters? Naturally, they smoothly agreed to her admission request and specially made a dormitory for Xing and Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue was quite polite. She smiled at the others and said enthusiastically, "Hello, students. I'm Ling Xiaoxue, Xing Gongzi's girlfriend. Strictly speaking, I'm not a freshman, I'm just here to accompany you. Please take care of me in the future." Although Ling Qianxue's attitude was enthusiastic, on the contrary, other than Cheng Menjing and Jianghu who nodded at her in a friendly manner and greeted her, everyone else had a lukewarm attitude. Those who were cold continued to be cold, and those who were reading continued to lower their heads to read. Xiao Chen already knew that they were here for him, so he couldn't be bothered to respond. Professor Zhong saw that no one was interested in meeting new students, so he didn't say much. After a few simple words, he left in a hurry. Seeing that it was almost time for military training, everyone went to the field to gather. For ordinary freshmen, military training could be called a nightmare. After a few days of training, students from other faculties fainted or fell sick from heat exhaustion. However, for Xiao Chen's major, military training was a small matter. They were all ancient martial arts enthusiasts, so there was no problem in terms of physical fitness. Although they were exposed to the sun and training, they were still in high spirits and didn't seem tired at all. That being said, Xiao Chen looked absent-minded throughout the military training. He couldn't lift his spirits no matter what he did. He saw that Xing Chick came to him so quickly, and a strong sense of crisis arose in his heart. Since she could find him, Ma Baizhu, that idiot, would find him sooner or later. It wouldn't be long before he ran away with Cheng Menjing. What made Xiao Chen most depressed was that he repeatedly recalled the entire process of his escape. After thinking for a long time, he still felt that he shouldn't have been followed. Furthermore, after arriving at Lan City, he had only contacted Xia Zhili. Xia Zhili could not have leaked the news, so where exactly did the problem lie? "Xiaoyi, what's wrong with you? I called you a few times today but you ignored me. What are you thinking about?" At the end of the military training in the evening, Cheng Menjing wanted to ask Xiao Chen to have dinner together, but she didn't expect him to sit on the side of the field in a daze, looking like he had something on his mind. Hearing Cheng Menjing's voice, Xiao Chen raised his head, took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Meng? Ya, we might have to start running again. You better be mentally prepared. Don't run around if you have nothing to do these few days." "We've only been in Lan City for a few days, why do we have to leave again? I've just entered university and haven't experienced enough life yet." Cheng Menjing was stunned at first, then disappointment filled her face. She originally thought that she would be able to stay longer in Lan City University this time, but she didn't expect that her hopes would be dashed again. "The 2 new students from our department are the ones who were watching us at the morning market street. I didn't expect them to come so quickly, so for safety's sake, we should make plans to leave as soon as possible. Xiao Qin sighed and shook his head helplessly. But I don't want to run anymore. If we keep running like this, when will it be over? Moreover, I have to live in fear every day, afraid that someone will suddenly attack me. Don't tell me that I have to spend the rest of my life on the run? Cheng Minjing frowned and murmured unhappily. In these few days she had gradually adapted to university life and even became good friends with Ling Qinyu, so she increasingly disliked the days of hiding. Sigh, there's nothing I can do. It's all my fault, my strength is too low. If only I had the cultivation of the peak of the golden core stage level 9, I wouldn't have to be afraid of that old man Ma Tianzhu. Hearing Cheng Minjing's complaints, Xiao Chen's voice was a little bitter. If he was at the peak of the golden core stage level 9, it would be equivalent to the strength of the Devil King level 10. With the help of the fire of the underworld and little demon, and he would be able to confront Ma Tianzhu head-on. Cheng Minjing also knew that Xiao Chen was telling the truth, but she was still very upset. She felt that not only Xiao Chen but her strength was also too low. In the secular world, there was not enough heaven and earth spiritual energy for her to cultivate. Even if she wanted to join forces with Xiao Chen to fight against Ma Tianzhu, it would be very difficult to achieve. Not to mention joining forces, it was very likely that she would be dragging Xiao Chen down. Forget it, Missy, don't think so much. Anyway, let's observe for a few days first. From the looks of it, young Master Xing doesn't seem like a bad person. He's probably on our side. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped us escape last time. Seeing that Cheng Minjing's expression wasn't too good, Xiao Chen could only open his mouth to comfort her. Cheng Minjing did not say anything. First, she thought for a while, the expression on her face alternating between red and white. After a few minutes of silence, she took a deep breath, as if she had made an important decision. She bit her lower lip and intermittently uttered a voice like a mosquito. Xiaoyi, why don't we dual cultivate? Huh? What did you say? Xiao Chen asked casually. His attention was all on thinking about the countermeasures for the future. He vaguely heard Cheng Minjing muttering a few words, but as for the content, he was completely unable to hear it clearly. I said let's dual cultivate tonight. Cheng Minjing's face was as red as an apple. She lowered her head and kept rubbing the corner of her clothes as she softly repeated, "No way." Xiao Chen was startled, thinking that he had heard wrong. He quickly asked, "You've thought it through? I thought you had already forgotten about dual cultivation. I didn't think that you would take the initiative to bring it up." "Such an important matter, how could I forget? I'm not yet." Cheng Minjing stammered for a long time, then simply glared at Xiao Chen and directly skipped this topic. "Hey, our strength is too low. If we don't quickly increase our strength, if Ma Laozhi really comes, then we're dead for sure." Cheng Minjing muttered in her heart. "Wasn't it because I couldn't accept being naked in front of you? That's why I was conflicted for so long. How could I have forgotten? If it wasn't because the current situation was not optimistic, Cheng Minjing would not choose to dual cultivate to increase their strength. But if they stagnated and did not break through, when Ma Laozhi came up with an inescapable trap, both of them would not be able to escape. "Alright, since you've decided, then let's dual cultivate tonight. Let's go eat first." Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, "There's definitely no way to dual cultivate in the dormitory. How about this, let's go to a hotel and get a room, lest we're discovered again. Anyway, we're a couple now, it's no problem to get a room." Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen but did not object. After the two went to the cafeteria for dinner, they went straight to the express hotel that they had stayed in before. They casually booked a cheap king-sized bedroom and began to prepare for dual cultivation. However, when it came to the real start, Cheng Minjing hesitated again. Although she was Xiao Chen's fiancée, she had never been fully prepared mentally. She could not muster up any courage to be honest with him. After stripping off her clothes in the bathroom, Cheng Minjing's hand held the door handle. Her mind was full of thoughts like glue. She did not dare to open the door to meet Xiao Chen. She just stood there in a daze and did not move for a long time. After waiting for a long time, seeing that Cheng Minjing still did not come out, Xiao Chen was a little puzzled. He had to stand outside the bathroom and shouted, "Missy, are you ready? I've already hung up the curtain. You can come out at any time." Why are you in such a hurry? Anyway, you don't have to go back to the dormitory tonight. Can't you take it slow? You turn off the light first and then check if there are any holes in the curtain. I'm telling you, don't even think about taking the opportunity to peek at my body." Cheng Minjing was in a dilemma. When she was shouted by Xiao Chen, her heart was even more unsettled. She shouted shyly and anxiously, "You can rest assured. I have carefully checked 3 times. There is no problem at all. The light is also turned off. Xiao Qin said with a smile, then he walked back to the bed and sat down on the side of the curtain. Xiao Qin did not know whether to laugh or cry at Cheng Minjing's cautiousness. If he had the intention to peek, he would have been able to see Cheng Minjing clearly even in the pitch-black night, let alone with the curtain blocking his view. Oh then I'm going out. You close your eyes first. Cheng Minjing felt that it was not a good idea to stand in the same place, so she wrapped a bath towel around her body. She clenched her teeth and opened a gap in the door. After confirming that the light in the room was turned off, she summoned her courage and walked out carefully. Young miss, walk a little to the left or you will hit the chair. Xiao Qin felt funny. It was dark, and young miss didn't know how to use her divine sense to explore the surrounding environment. She just bumped into him in a daze. If Xiao Qin didn't remind her, she would probably have to spend a lot of effort to walk to the bed. Damn Xiao Qin, stinking rogue, are you squinting your eyes to peek? Otherwise, how do you know where I am? Cheng Minjing was shocked, but she still moved to the left according to his words. Her eyes were still staring in the direction of Xiao Qin. When she just came out of the toilet, she hadn't fully adapted to the darkness. It was dark in front of her and she couldn't see anything clearly. Now she could vaguely see things. I say, you are also a cultivator. Why don't you release your divine sense to explore the way? Do you still remember your identity? It's really a waste of such an awesome skill. Xiao Qin said helplessly with black lines on his head. Chapter 894. That's right. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of it. Cheng Minjing came to a sudden realization. She quickly released her divine sense and successfully walked to the bedside. Staring at the curtain in the middle, Cheng Minjing hesitated for a while. Suddenly her eyes lit up. She circulated her primordial qi and transformed a set of clothes on her body. Then she slowly sat down and untied the bath towel on her body. She said slowly, "It's all done. Let's begin." Xiao Qin lifted the curtain and was about to extend his hand to touch Cheng Minjing's palm when he suddenly saw the transformation effect on Cheng Minjing's body. He almost burst out laughing. "What are you laughing at? What's so funny? Haven't you seen me wear such beautiful clothes?" Cheng Minjing glanced at Xiao Qin and said angrily, "Indeed, I haven't seen it before." Xiao Qin shook his head seriously and said, "Missy, it's better not to transform. Otherwise, it will be slow to cultivate while releasing primordial qi." The reason why Xiao Qin said this was not because he wanted to see Cheng Minjing's body, but because it was the truth. With her current cultivation level, to maintain the effect of the clothes on her body would consume a lot of primordial qi. So, it would definitely affect the progress of her cultivation. Oh, what if you take the opportunity to peek? That's it. I think it's pretty good. Cheng Minjing didn't even think about it and directly rejected Xiao Qin's proposal. Feeling helpless, Xiao Qin could only shut his mouth obediently. Actually, the clothes that the eldest young mistress conjured were only effective against low-level cultivators or ordinary people. Xiao Qin was already an expert at the pinnacle of the second level of the Golden Core realm. He could completely ignore this kind of child's play. It was as if he was looking at the emperor's new clothes. However, since Missy insisted, Xiao Qin was embarrassed to tell the truth. What if she knew and refused to cultivate again? After thinking about it, Xiao Qin decided to cooperate with Cheng Minjing. He transformed a set of clothes on his body, but he could still see the eldest miss clearly. Since it was his first time seeing Cheng Minjing's body, Xiao Qin subconsciously admired it for a while. The more he looked, the more restless he became. Slowly, Xiao Qin's line of sight began to move towards the eldest miss's smooth abdomen, and then gradually moved downwards. Suddenly, Xiao Qin felt a burning sensation in his abdomen. An evil thought kept lingering in his mind, and he seemed to be unable to control it. When Xiao Qin came to his senses, he was shocked. This was a sign of qi deviation. He hurriedly calmed his mind and used his primordial qi to forcefully suppress the turbulence in his body. He closed his eyes and no longer looked at the young miss in front of him. Only when his heart slowly calmed down did he officially begin dual cultivation with the young Mississippi. Xiao Qin silently wiped the sweat off his forehead. Holy sh*t. It was really too dangerous. Fortunately, the young miss didn't see any abnormalities in a certain part of my body. Otherwise, I would be in trouble today. However, when the two of them officially began dual cultivation, Xiao Qin suddenly discovered that compared to the slow speed of dual cultivation with Yi Xiaoye, the current dual cultivation with the young miss could be said to be at the speed of light. Since both of them were cultivators, there was no conversion or condensation process at all. The pure primordial qi passed through Xiaoqin and Qing Menjing's palms and circulated through their bodies a few times. After that, Qing Menjing took the lead in breaking through and reached the first level of the building foundation stage. This rocket-like speed made Xiaoqin secretly click his tongue. Although he didn't break through that quickly, he could also feel that his strength was steadily rising. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. After 2 hours had passed, Xiaoqin also faintly felt that he had touched the barrier of the third level of the gold core stage. His spirit was greatly uplifted and he couldn't help but speed up the primordial qi circulation. Every time he transferred more primordial qi into Qing Menjing's body, the primordial qi also gradually increased. Xiaoqin, hurry up, give me more. Qing Menjing, who had been infused with more primordial qi, didn't feel the slightest discomfort. Instead, she felt warm all over and very comfortable. She couldn't help but moan a few times. Xiaoqin was teased by the young Mrs. voice. His heart was itching. The desire that he had just suppressed was a little bit rekindled. In order to control the state of his body, he gradually slowed down the speed of his primordial qi transmission. Don't stop. Hurry up. Hurry up. Qing Menjing was very anxious and repeatedly urged. Okay. Xiaoqin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, he also knew that the young miss was at a critical moment, so he could only nod his head. While controlling the evil thoughts, he increased the speed of the transmission. My body feels like it's going to melt. It's so comfortable. Feeling a warm current shuttling through her body, Qing Menjing shouted loudly. Xiaoqin's face was waterfall of sweat. The young Mrs. shout was too easy to let people's imagination run wild. Fortunately, the location of this room was relatively close to the street. The roar of the passing vehicles could more or less cover her voice. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if the people next door heard it. At this time, Xiaoqin was extremely glad that they had booked a room in a hotel. If they had cultivated in the dormitory, maybe the dormitory manager would have directly come to the door. Qing Menjing's shouting continued intermittently throughout the night, but fortunately it was worth it. After this night, she had successfully promoted her cultivation to the peak of the 8th level of the foundation establishment stage. Originally, she wanted to continue cultivating, but the sky was already bright. She couldn't transform clothes for a long time, so she had to stop. Xiaoqin's cultivation speed wasn't that fast, but he had also advanced to the peak of the 3rd level of the golden core stage. Although there was still a little gap from the expected peak of the 9th level of the golden core stage, Xiaoqin was already very satisfied. When leaving the hotel, the receptionist at the front desk looked at Xiaoqin with ambiguous and awe-inspiring eyes. This man is awesome. He actually came for a whole night. His physical strength is really not for show. Although Xiaoqin roughly knew the meaning of the other party's look, he was sure that it was not a good look. He hurriedly paid the bill and pulled Qing Menjing out of the hotel as if he was escaping. After leaving the express hotel, Qing Menjing felt refreshed. She didn't expect that in just a short night, she had already become an expert at the peak of the 8th level of the foundation establishment stage. This was equivalent to the strength of the devil general. Qing Menjing couldn't help but secretly sigh. It turned out that the dual cultivation was really so powerful. On the other hand, Xiaoqin's face was indifferent, as if he didn't care at all. In the past, when he was dual cultivating with Yi Xiaoye, his strength also rose slowly, so he wasn't very surprised. Instead, he was thinking about how to increase the speed of his cultivation. In fact, if he wanted to obtain the greatest benefits in the shortest time, it was nothing more than a fortuitous encounter, the use of heavenly treasures, or like before, XX with Yi Xiaoye in a special environment, then his strength would advance by leaps and bounds. However, Xiaoqin only dared to think about it. After all, it was already not easy to get the eldest miss to agree to dual cultivating with him. If he simply asked the eldest miss to do it with him just to improve his strength, she would probably beat him to death. Unknowingly, the two of them had already walked into the school gate. Today the school seemed to be very lively. Many people ran around with a stack of papers in their hands, and when they saw someone they would pull them to talk. Xiaoqin and Qing Menjing looked at each other, a little puzzled. Before the two of them had taken a few steps, a student holding a booklet in his hand saw them. After seeing Xiaoqin, his eyes lit up and he ran over. Xiaoqin took a step back subconsciously, but the student didn't notice it. He asked with enthusiasm, "Student, I am Dong Jiqi, the president of the martial arts club of this school. Are you interested in martial arts? Would you like to visit our club?" "En?" Xiaoqin was stunned. Only then did he remember that there seemed to be all kinds of clubs in the university. Every time a freshman enrolled, these clubs would recruit people everywhere to absorb fresh blood. It seemed that today was the day of recruitment. Looking at the person in front of him, Xiao Qin guessed that he should want to invite him to join some martial arts club, so he shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, I don't have the idea of joining a club for the time being." Hey student, don't go first. I see that your physique is relatively small. If you can learn martial arts, you will definitely be a lot stronger and you can also protect your girlfriend, right? This is the martial arts club's brochure. Why don't you think about it again? Dong Zhiqi pulled Xiao Qin, who was about to leave, took out a booklet, and forced it into Xiao Qin's hands. "Oh, my girlfriend is very strong. She doesn't need my protection for the time being. It's more like she can protect me, but thank you for your kindness," Xiao Qin said with a smile. In any case, the young miss was an expert of the demon general level. Not to mention the secular world, even in the outside world of martial arts she could be ranked. Who would dare to provoke her for no reason? Wasn't that asking for trouble? Cheng Minjing glared at Xiao Qin and secretly pinched his arm. "What do you mean by strong? Are you saying that I am a masculine woman? Preposterous. Alright then, sorry for bothering you. If you change your mind, you can always come to the martial arts club to look for me." Watching the figures of Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing disappear into the distance, Dong Zhiqi secretly sighed and turned his head to look at the Taekwondo club not far away. In contrast to him running around with the brochure, the Taekwondo club was as crowded as a marketplace. Many students were lining up to sign up. Seeing this scene, Dong Zhiqi felt even more upset. In recent years, as traditional martial arts gradually declined in the secular world, it was replaced by various foreign martial arts that slowly became popular, such as Taekwondo, Karate, Muay Thai, and so on. All of these became the objects of pursuit of young people, and gradually formed a trend. On the other hand, the traditional martial arts of Great Xia were rarely sought after. Dong Zhiqi grew up watching ancient martial arts television dramas. Even in his dreams, he dreamed of becoming a martial arts master with unique skills, so he had always been very passionate about traditional martial arts. When he entered Lanqing University, he found out that there was actually a martial arts club. Without thinking, he directly signed up for it, and even chose Xiao Qin's ancient martial arts research as his second major. But not long after, Dong Zhiqi discovered that the members who joined the club at the same time as him began to withdraw from the club under the arduous training. Chapter 895. There were even some who simply disappeared, turning around to join the Taekwondo club and Karate club, which had simpler training. Only Dong Zhiqi and a few other hardworking club members remained. "Senior Dong, can I join? Although I'm a girl, I'm definitely not worse than a guy." Dong Zhiqi had just finished speaking when Cheng Minjing immediately raised her hand. He had missed a chance just now. He definitely couldn't waste it this time. "Oh, then I'll go with you," Xiao Qin replied helplessly. Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing arrived at the classroom. Cheng Minjing found a corner and sat down. She pouted angrily and looked unhappy. However, joining a club wasn't too big of a problem. Now that Cheng Minjing had agreed to dual cultivation, the two of them would gradually increase their strength. Dong Zhiqi didn't lie. The martial arts club did have martial arts manuals. However, this kind of small club in the secular world definitely didn't have the ability to obtain high-level manuals. Basically, they only had ordinary stuff. It was just that Dong Zhiqi didn't know about it. Seeing the mistress's uncertain expression, Xiao Qin didn't know how he had offended her. He could only quietly sit beside her and didn't dare to ask. He lowered his head and casually flipped through the textbook. Dong Zhiqi was stunned at first. He didn't expect the cold man to suddenly make a move. He didn't have time to prepare before he instantly felt a gust of energy rushing towards him. Since he could sign up for an ancient martial arts major, he should be very interested in martial arts. Rather than blindly trying to find someone under the hot sun, it would be faster and more effective to find someone according to their major. Fortunately, he had been practicing diligently. His reaction was faster than the average person. He quickly raised his hands to block. "Okay, then it's a deal." The cold man nodded slightly. He stood up and rushed towards Dong Zhiqi without saying anything. He waved his hand and slammed it heavily on Dong Zhiqi's chest. "But, Senior Dong, my girlfriend and I are also participating. My name is Xing Gongzi and my girlfriend is Ling Xiaoxua." Since Xiao Qin and Qing Mingyao had signed up, Xing Gongzi naturally had to follow them. "What you said makes sense. Let's go and try it out now." When Dong Zhiqi heard this, he felt that it made sense. The remaining members were all ancient martial arts majors, so he directly followed Jianghu to the archaeology department's teaching building. But now, including Dong Zhiqi, the entire martial arts club had a total of 4 members, one of whom had just joined a few days ago. Just as Xiao Chen was about to say something, he saw Jianghu bringing a familiar-looking senior into the classroom. It was the Wushu president, Dong Zhiqi. "President Dong, you want me to join your club? It's very simple. Give me the position of vice president and I'll join the club. Otherwise there's no need to talk." The aloof man crossed his arms and leaned back in his chair. "So don't mention it. I didn't manage to recruit anyone either. It seems that our martial arts club will not be able to survive this time." Dong Zhiqi sighed and said helplessly, "Of course. All the secret manuals in the club can be read for free." Dong Zhiqi nodded. Seeing Xiao Chen agree, Qing Minjing's mood immediately improved. She smiled and said to Dong Zhiqi, "Senior, let's register. I'm Qing Yaoyao and he's Xiao Yi." I got it. Dong Zhiqi was speechless. If he knew this Qing Yaoyao was so tough, he would have directly changed his target to her and invited her to join the martial arts club. Not only would he succeed in one fell swoop, but he could also invite Xiao Yi. Wouldn't that save him a lot of trouble? "Miss, it's not like you don't know our situation. We're in danger of being hunted at any time. For safety, I think it's better to keep a low profile to avoid any more trouble." Xiao Chen finally understood the reason why Miss was angry. He could only explain. "Senior Dong, I've been shouting for a long time but no one responded. How's the situation here?" A voice came from afar. Dong Zhiqi looked up and saw Jianghu running over. In his hand was a stack of martial arts club brochures. It turned out that Jianghu was the new member. But after Dong Zhiqi looked carefully, he couldn't help but be stunned. The girl who raised her hand to register, wasn't it the young couple he met at the school gate? Originally he wanted to recruit that boy into the club, but he didn't succeed. He didn't expect to meet him again here. It seemed that the boy wasn't lying when he said that this girl was strong. "Xiao Yi, why did you reject that senior just now?" "I still want to find a club to join." Qing Minjing sulked for a while. Seeing that Xiao Chen didn't ask why she was angry, she couldn't help but feel a little dissatisfied. However, the words of the cold man just now ignited Dong Zhiqi's fighting spirit. He also wanted to see if the person in front of him had the qualifications to boast, so he decided to accept the challenge. It's okay. We practice martial arts, it's normal to have a bit of a temper." Dong Zhiqi waved his hand and squinted his eyes to size up the cold man. "If you can really defeat me, then don't mention being the vice president. Even if I let you be the president, it's not a problem." Although this girl who wanted to join the martial arts club was relatively ordinary, it was a great thing to have someone join. "Are you talking to me?" The boy who was reading raised his head and asked. Seeing Dong Zhiqi nod, he thought about it and said, "What are the benefits of joining the martial arts club? Are there martial arts manuals to read?" She had heard about it when she was in high school. The clubs in the university were quite interesting. Just now when that senior came to recruit, she wanted to say yes, but she didn't expect Xiao Chen to directly reject him. He even said that she was a tough girl. "I'm much gentler than Tang Tang, what tough girl?" Jianghu walked to the podium and looked at the few students below him. "Everyone, this is the president of our school's martial arts club. We are all students majoring in ancient martial arts. Does anyone want to join the martial arts club?" Raising his head, Dong Zhiqi saw 2 people sitting not far away from the classroom. Although one looked very cold and the other had his head down to read a book and didn't pay attention to them, he regained his confidence and asked enthusiastically, "Those 2 students, are you interested in joining the martial arts club?" Just at the moment when the cold man struck, Xiao Chen, who was sitting in the corner, saw that he was actually at the peak of martial artist level 3. He was instantly shocked. In order for the club to survive, Dong Zhiqi had to run out to recruit members while the freshmen started school. However, after running around and earnestly promoting the club for the whole morning, no one was interested. "Student, aren't you being too arrogant?" Jianghu, who had been standing at the side, couldn't take it anymore and stood out indignantly. He was now a member of the martial arts club. Seeing the president being provoked, he was naturally a little unhappy. In the second year, the previous president graduated. As the leader of the club, Dong Zhiqi naturally took over the position of president. However, something that gave him a headache followed. What talisman is not in line with the rules? If you weren't a senior, I would have directly asked you for the position of president. The cold man snorted coldly and looked at Dong Zhiqi with contempt. With a face full of arrogance, he said, "Isn't the president of the martial arts club the stronger one? If I want to defeat you, it'll be as easy as lifting a finger. Alright, then I'll join. My name is Kai Zhuwei. Hearing that there was a secret manual to read, the guy who was reading did not hesitate. After reporting his name, he lowered his head and continued reading. He didn't seem to care what kind of secret manual Dong Zhiqi had. As long as it was a martial arts secret manual, it would be fine. The school had announced a rule in the new semester. Any club must recruit 10 members before it could continue to exist. Otherwise it would be cancelled. President, don't be discouraged. Why don't you try your luck in my class? After all, we're all freshmen majoring in ancient martial arts. Who knows, you might be able to recruit someone. Jianghu thought for a while and suggested. Oh, of course. Dong Zhiqi didn't expect someone to join so quickly. He was overjoyed but also a little surprised. He didn't expect that there would be a female in the already unpopular ancient martial arts department. Moreover, there was more than one. Bang! A loud sound could be heard. Dong Zhiqi was directly pushed by the cold man. Fortunately, his body was quite sturdy. Although he fell to the ground, it was only a scratch and nothing serious. It's just some activities. What trouble can there be? If you don't want to accompany me, I'll just find my own club. Cheng Minjing twisted her body in a fit of pique and said gloomily. If there were no accidents, Xiaoqin felt that he should be able to reach the peak of Golden Core level 9 very quickly. At that time, he wouldn't have to worry about being careless anymore. Xiaoyi, are you going? I'll give you another chance. Cheng Minjing stood up and asked in a condescending manner. I'm afraid this doesn't conform to the rules, right? If you want to be the vice president, you can go through the normal promotion channels. Before Dong Zhiqi could finish his sentence, he was directly cut off by the cold man. Since he could become the president of the martial arts club, Dong Zhiqi naturally had some skills in his hands. When he first joined the club, he was also full of passion and sparred with others. However, as time went by, he gradually matured and learned to respect the overall situation, and the impulse in his heart was gradually smoothed out. Hello everyone, my name is Dong Zhiqi. Although our club is small, I believe that as long as the students are willing to join, we will definitely be able to work together to make the club great. Since everyone is an ancient martial arts department, you must be a little interested in martial arts. I hope the students will actively sign up, Dong Zhiqi encouraged with a smile. Okay. Thank you so much. The martial arts club will definitely not let everyone down. Dong Zhiqi didn't expect so many people to sign up for the ancient martial arts department. He couldn't help but register happily. He thought that as long as he recruited 2 more people, the club would not be expelled. Although she also felt that Xiaoqian's words made sense, she had already changed her appearance. If she was discovered, it would be the same even if she didn't join the club. Chapter 896. This guy is usually quiet, but I didn't expect him to actually have some strength. He hit it quite well. Could he be a disciple of an orthodox sect in the outer martial arts world? Cheng Minjing, who was sitting beside Xiaoqin, naturally saw it as well. She lightly touched Xiaoqian's elbow under the table, looking a little worried. Xiaoqin nodded slightly and gave Cheng Minjing a look, telling her not to be too nervous. Xing Chik and Ling Chenxua looked at each other and didn't say anything. Their expressions were very calm and no one knew what they were thinking. Jianghu, who was standing on the side, frowned. Although he hated the cold man, he couldn't do anything about it. After all, it was the president who accepted the challenge and was pushed down. As for Kai Zhuwei, he acted as if nothing had happened. He still lowered his head and read the secret manual, ignoring everything that happened in the classroom. You win. Dong Zhiqi sat on the floor with a gloomy face. He didn't get up and shook his head. I lost the bet. I'll go back and arrange for the president's handover. The president position of the martial arts club is now yours. You lost, but I'm not interested in being the president. Let's do as we said before. The cold man crossed his arms in front of his chest, raised his chin and revealed his 2 big nostrils. He looked around the classroom arrogantly and said, From now on, let me Wang Jingtian, the vice president, lead everyone and trample all the other martial arts clubs in the school. We'll carry forward our ancient martial arts club and become the #1 club in Lan City University. After saying that, Wang Jingtian glanced at Dong Zhiqi and swaggered out of the classroom. No one knew what he was going to do. Senior Dong, are you alright? Do you need me to send you to the infirmary? Seeing that things had finally come to an end, Jianghu hurriedly ran over and helped Dong Zhiqi up to check his injuries. It's nothing. It's just a scratch. I really didn't expect that there would be such a powerful master among the ancient martial arts freshmen. I can rest assured with him in the club in the future. Dong Zhiqi waved his hand and smiled bitterly. Although he was beaten, Dong Zhiqi didn't hold a grudge against Wang Jingtian. Instead, he felt a little relieved. As the oldest club in Lan City University, the martial arts club often received challenges from other clubs, commonly known as challenge, despite its awe-inspiring name. The key was that in the past 2 years, Dong Zhiqi was the only one in the entire martial arts club who was better at fighting. When the others sparred with others, they were basically beaten up. Dong Zhiqi felt that with the addition of an expert like Wang Jingtian, the burden on his shoulders would be lighter. As for the position of vice president, since he had the strength, there was no harm in letting him take it. After saying a few words of encouragement, Dong Zhiqi left the classroom and rushed to the student's office with the name list. Since there were enough members in the club, he had to report it to the school as soon as possible. Otherwise, he might accidentally cancel the club. The morning class ended very quickly. In the class, only Qing Minjing and Jia Muzhen were relatively serious during class. The others had an indifferent attitude. After all, they didn't really come to the university to study, but each had their own purpose. Needless to say, there was no need to mention Xiaoqin. Xing Chik and Ling Qianxue kept whispering to each other. Kai Zhuwei had his head lowered and was reading. The aloof guy Wang Jingtian didn't come back after he went out. He skipped class. However, the teacher didn't care and continued the class as if he was already used to it. Xiaoyi, do you have time at noon? As soon as the bell rang, the teacher walked out of the classroom. Jia Muzhen turned around and asked, I heard that there's a student market near Lan City University. There's a lot of good food there. I'm planning to buy some daily necessities. Why don't we go and take a look? Sure. I'll go with you guys. I'm tired of the food in the cafeteria. It's a good time to change my taste. Before Xiaoqin could reply, Qing Minjing rushed to agree. She originally thought that the food in the university cafeteria would be good, but after eating a few times she realized that it wasn't the case at all. It was terrible. Not to mention the food cooked by Xiaoqin, it was even worse than the food in Songning Second High School. The young miss wanted to eat something different now. She originally wanted to let Xiaoqin cook personally, but this condition really didn't allow it. She could only settle for the next best thing. Alright then, let's go shopping. There's no important class in the afternoon anyway. Since the young miss had agreed, Xiaoqin had no reason to object. He nodded and agreed. After leaving the school, the three went straight to the nearby market. This place was very close to Lan City University. During the day and night, it was as lively as Songning's morning market. Not only were there all kinds of snacks, but there were also some grocery stores selling daily necessities. Most importantly, the prices were reasonable. It was within the acceptable range for students. Not long after entering the market, Xiaoqin sensed that someone was following him. Just as he was about to silently release his spiritual sense to find out who the other party was, the person who was following him was already running over quickly. Could it be that Ma Baixia had discovered him? Was he going to make a move in broad daylight? Xiaoqin's heart tightened. He was about to turn around and get ready to fight the enemy, but he didn't expect the person to take the initiative to greet him. Four Eyes, I didn't expect you to be so fated with Sister Sour. I can't believe we ran into each other here by chance. Tian Sour acted as if she didn't see Xiaoqin. She directly went around him and patted Jia Muzhen's shoulder heavily. Xiaoqin's tensed nerves immediately relaxed. He secretly complained, this Tian Sour is too unreliable. Why does she have to follow others for no reason? She's making such a fuss, and she's even lying about running into me by chance. He glanced to the side and saw that Su Chuxia was also following behind Tian Sour. However, her cheeks were slightly red, and her expression was a little helpless. It seemed that Tian Sour had forcefully dragged her over. Oh, hello, are you here for lunch too? Jia Muzhen was a little stunned. He was a little surprised to see that it was Tian Sour. Why has Tian Sour been looking for me lately? Could it be that I'm going to get lucky with the ladies? But didn't she say that she had a boyfriend and even warned me not to dream about it? Actually, Jia Muzhen didn't know that after Tian Sour went to their dormitory a few days ago, she was relieved. However, after thinking about it, she still felt that it was very likely that Jia Muzhen knew her. It was just that he pretended not to know her because he wanted to snitch on her. After all, the bounty was quite high. Tian Sour couldn't sleep for the whole night. She decided to test the waters again. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to sleep well tonight. After making her decision, she took Su Chuxia and followed Xiao Chen and the others from the school to the student market. She planned to find an opportunity to get close to Jia Muzhen and familiarize herself with him. Then she would use her beauty to get the information out of him. At first, Su Chuxia didn't agree with Tian Suru's way of doing things. She felt that stalking others was a very rude thing to do. It was just like when Xiao Chen stalked and spied on her. She also felt uncomfortable because her every move was exposed to others. However, she had a gentle personality. She couldn't stand Tian Sour's coaxing and pestering. Moreover, the situation was indeed special. Moreover, if she stayed in the school she might be harassed by Shuigao. She had no choice but to follow them. Yeah. Why don't we eat together? Tian Sour rolled her eyes and said casually, although Sister Sour already has a boyfriend and can't let you date him, I can give you a chance to treat us to lunch. A loser like you probably doesn't have many opportunities to have lunch with two beautiful women, right? How about it? Are you a little excited? Su Chuxia, who was standing at the side, blushed even more. She lowered her head so much that it almost touched the ground. Who would praise themselves like that? Sour was too impulsive. This. Jia Muzhen was a little troubled. He pointed at Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing and said, I'm afraid I can't this time. I've already promised Xiao Yi and the others that we'll have lunch together. I can't go back on my word, can I? Why don't we meet another day? What's another day? Haven't you heard that a chance encounter is better than an invitation? Sister Sour isn't free every day. Her schedule will be full the next day. Besides, they're showing off their love. Is it appropriate for you to be the third wheel? Tian Sour interrupted Jia Muzhen before he could finish. I don't think it's inappropriate. Jia Muzhen was the one who asked us out first. If you want to come and freeload, we don't mind. At most, we'll just add 2 more pairs of chopsticks. Seeing Jia Muzhen's troubled expression, Xiao Chen had no choice but to help him out. How can you say that? What do you mean by freeloading? We're 2 beautiful women, do we need to freeload? Sister Sour is doing this for your own good. What if after lunch you want to find a place to do it and that 4-eyed guy happens to be with you? Wouldn't that be awkward? Tian Sour rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen and said without any hesitation. Ew. What nonsense are you talking about? Who wants to do it with Xiao? Can you not talk nonsense when you don't know the situation? Cheng Menjing suddenly lost her cool and said angrily. What's wrong with this Tian Sour? Her thoughts are too dirty. Nothing has happened between me and Xiao Chen, but from her words, it seems like I like him a lot. Sister Sour understands your difficulties. Although that Xiao Yi looks tall and strong, I didn't expect him to be a quick shooter. He finished it in a few minutes. If it was any other woman they would feel unhappy. Tian Sour had a sympathetic expression as she patted Cheng Menjing's shoulder and comforted her. But don't be too sad. There are many men out there. Why do you have to hang yourself on one tree? If you can't do it, then change to another one. You. Cheng Menjing was so angry that she couldn't speak. She felt that Tian Sour's words were a bit off. After thinking about it carefully, she realized, how did Tian Sour know that Xiao Chen was a quick shooter? Could it be that they? Cheng Menjing turned her head and glared at Xiao Chen. Sour, how can you say such things? It's easy to misunderstand. Su Chuxia frowned and finally couldn't stand it anymore. She hurriedly explained to Cheng Menjing, classmate, don't think too much. Sour is just too outspoken. Nothing happened between her and Xiao Yi. She only said that because a few days ago, Sour went to find Jia Muzhen. Chapter 897. After listening to Su Chuxia's explanation, Cheng Menjing finally understood that she had indeed misunderstood the relationship between Xiao Chen and Tian Sour. Her expression also softened a little. Su Chuxia also secretly wiped away her sweat. Fortunately, Sour told her about the situation when he returned. Otherwise, she would not be able to clear her name even if she jumped into the Yellow River. Alright. Let's get down to business. Since we're clear, let's go eat together. It's my treat. Xiao Chen let out a sigh of relief and gave Su Chuxia a grateful look. Fortunately, she had helped to explain. Otherwise, he would definitely be scolded by the missy again. It's my treat. I was the one who called you guys out. How can I let you spend money? Jia Muzhen quickly waved his hand and then pointed to a barbecue shop not far away. That shop looks pretty good. There are quite a lot of people eating there. Why don't we go there? Alright, It's decided then. Sister Sour could eat meat without restraint again. It felt so good. Let's go and get a good spot. You two losers, hurry up and follow us. Tian Xiaoring pulled Su Chuxia's hand and ran directly to the barbecue shop. He did not forget to wave his hand for Xiao Chen and the others to follow. What losers? I think you're the loser. It's just a barbecue and you're already so happy. It's as if you've never eaten meat in your life. Cheng Menjing was very dissatisfied. Xiao Chen was her fiancé. If he was a loser, then what was she? This Tian Xiaoring really did not know how to speak. His EQ was too low. Xiao Chen could only helplessly shrug when he heard this. He did not dare to continue the conversation. Although he knew that Tian Xiaoring only looked careless and did not actually have a bad personality, Xiao Chen did not dare to put in a good word for Tian Xiaoring in front of the missy. Otherwise she would be suspicious again. During the meal, everyone was busy finishing the food. Only Tian Suruan kept chatting with Jianghu. The content of the conversation was nothing more than questions about where he had lived in the past, his family background, and so on. It seemed as if he would not be satisfied until he got to the bottom of Jianghu. However, Jianghu didn't tell him everything honestly. Instead, he only answered half-heartedly. It was clear that he wasn't too willing to talk about his past. Many of his questions were answered half-heartedly, leaving Tian Wangchuan at a loss. Xiao Chen could tell that Tian Suruan was still unwilling to give up. He was purposely getting close to Jianghu, using the excuse of eating as an excuse to obtain some information from him. Even so, Xiao Chen did not intend to expose him directly. In any case, this matter had nothing to do with him. Moreover, Jianghu's lips seemed to be sealed. Tian Wangshou would not be able to find out anything in such a short time. However, Xiao Chen believed that with Sister Suruan's personality, she wouldn't give up so easily. He just didn't know why she was so interested in Jianghu. Sure enough, after the meal, Tian Wangshou insisted on going shopping with Xiao Chen and the others. Jianghu felt that they were going to buy some daily necessities anyway, so he didn't reject her. Xiao Chen, Cheng Menjing, and Su Chuxia naturally became his followers. Hello, fellow students. Our karate dojo has a big sale today. With this VIP card, you can experience a free lesson. Also, you can enjoy a 20% discount when you register. Are you interested in giving it a try? While everyone was wandering around aimlessly, a person who looked like a student suddenly stopped them and handed over a few VIP cards. He asked with a smile on his face. Oh, Sister Suruan isn't interested in fighting and killing. You can ask those three. They're from the ancient martial arts department. Maybe they'll join you. Tian Wangshou was squatting at a stall selling accessories. She immediately waved her hand and rejected the student. Thank you for your kindness, but we feel that foreign martial arts are too weak. They're not as strong as ancient martial arts, so there's no need to recommend them. Xiao Chen didn't beat around the bush. He had to use the most direct method to reject others. Moreover, he was already an expert at the peak of Golden Core Stage Level 3. Karate was useless to him. Student, you can't be so sure. Why don't you come and experience it first? Maybe you'll change your mind? The student still didn't give up and tried to sell his wares. He was a part-time student. If he could recommend a customer to learn karate, he could get a commission. Therefore, he didn't want to let go of any opportunity. Hey, I saw that purple earring first. Why did you snatch it away without saying a word? Give it back to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Before Xiao Chen could reply, Cheng Menjing and Tian Wangshou started arguing again. Xiao Chen was speechless. He had no choice but to go and check on the situation. What a joke. Why didn't you pay for it? If you didn't pay, then it doesn't count. Now that it's in Sister Wangshou's hands, it's mine. You're obviously a loser, yet you call yourself a miss. I think you've watched too many melodramatic dramas. Tian Wangshou held a plastic box tightly in her hand and sneered. Tian Wangshou didn't intend to compete with Cheng Menjing. However, she happened to overhear Cheng Menjing calling her a loser behind her back. At that time, Tian Wangshou had been suppressing her anger. However, in order to get information from Jianghu, she couldn't act up on the spot. Now she finally had a chance to take revenge. You. Cheng Menjing almost exploded. She quickly took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. She said patiently, I just wanted to see if there were any better-looking earrings. That's why I didn't pay immediately. If you don't believe me, you can ask the stall owner. He can testify for me. Tisk, if you want to find better, then it means you don't like this pair of earrings. That means you didn't buy it. Look at your rustic look. The earrings suit you well. Let Sister Wangshou wear these elegant purple earrings. Tian Wangshou glanced at Cheng Menjing with disdain. She took out her wallet and prepared to pay for the earrings. You're the rustic one. Your whole family is rustic. Cheng Minjing didn't expect Tian Wangsho to be so unreasonable. She was so angry that her head was buzzing. Seeing that Tian Soran was about to pay, she hurriedly took out her wallet and pulled out a 100 yuan bill, stuffing it into the stall owner's hand. Stall owner, I'll pay for the purple earrings first. Please help me get them back. That, classmate, let's not talk about whether or not I can get it back. The purple earrings are made of 925 pure silver. They cost $150. You don't have enough money? Seeing the two girls fighting over the earrings, the stall owner knew it was a good opportunity to make a profit. He rolled his eyes and pretended to be helpless. Tian Wangsho wanted to pay as well. However, when she saw Cheng Minjing hand over the money first and heard the stall owner's words, she blinked and came up with an idea. She quietly kept her wallet and stood there without saying a word. Oh, then I'll give you another $50. Help me get the earrings back. Cheng Minjing believed him and blushed. She quickly took out another $50 from her wallet and handed it over. Young lady, since this classmate paid first, give her the earrings. I'm also running a small business. Don't make things difficult for me. The stall owner took the money in satisfaction and turned to Tian Wangsho. It's okay. Sister Wangsho is good friends with her. We were just playing around. She wanted to buy these earrings for me anyway, so you don't have to worry about it. Tian Wangsho smirked and said nonchalantly. She put the earrings back into her bag and hummed a song as she prepared to leave. Since Tian Wangsho said so, the stall owner couldn't ask her for more. Moreover, the two of them did come together and seemed to know each other. The young lady wouldn't lie. Damn it. So. Cheng Minjing stomped her feet in anger. She didn't expect Tian Wangsho to be so shameless. Seeing Xiao Chen walking over from afar, Cheng Minjing was about to ask him to teach Tian Suru a lesson. However, she had only opened her mouth halfway when she suddenly paused. She had an idea and thought of a good way to punish him. Stop shouting. Sister Wangsho is so charming. Your loser boyfriend definitely won't come. As Tian Wangsho spoke, the smug look on her face gradually froze. She lowered her head and took out the earrings from her bag. She handed them to Cheng Minjing and turned to pick up the earrings from the stall. Boss, how much do these earrings cost? Oh, the original price is $70, but this is the last box. I'll give you a discount. Just give me $60. The stall owner didn't know why Tian Wangsho suddenly changed her mind, but he wouldn't let go of the opportunity to make money. The earrings cost only $5, so he asked for more than 10 times the price. Oh, here's $60. I'll take these earrings. Tian Wangsho nodded blankly. She took out the money from her wallet and handed it over. She put away the earrings and walked towards Su Chuxia in a daze. Wangsho, I thought you didn't like the earrings? Why did you buy them all of a sudden? Su Chuxia was confused. She was already surprised when Tian Wangsho returned the purple earrings to Cheng Minjing. She thought that it might be because Wangsho didn't want to make enemies with others. However, when she bought this earrings, Su Chuxia really didn't understand. What are you talking about? What earrings? Tian Wangsho's body trembled. Her eyes suddenly became clear. She took out the earrings from her bag and was stunned. What's going on? I clearly bought a purple one. You returned the purple earrings to Cheng Yao Yao? Then you bought this earrings. I don't know what you were thinking. If you didn't like them, why did you buy them? Su Chuxia was also confused. She couldn't understand what Tian Wangsho was thinking. Sister Wangsho's brain seemed to be out of control just now. She bought them in a daze. Tian Wangsho scratched her head. She couldn't remember what happened just now. How did this happen? Are you sick? Su Chuxia asked worriedly. She reached out to touch Tian Wangsho's forehead. There wasn't a fever. Chapter 898. It's okay, Sister Saori is not sick. Tian Saori lowered her head to look at the earring. Suddenly she said angrily, No. Sister Saori can't take this loss. This thing is worth 60 yuan. It's my daily living expenses. Sister Saori doesn't want such an ugly thing. It doesn't match my beautiful temperament at all. Student, since the item has been sold and there are no quality issues, it's not refundable. The stall owner heard their conversation and saw Tian Saori walking over. He knew that she must be here to return the item, so he gave her a sideways glance and rejected her. The stall owner sneered and cursed silently. What a joke. The money is already in my pocket and you want me to spit it out? Dream on. What? You're obviously being a tyrant. There's no. Tian Saori wanted to argue, but the stall owner waved his hand and said with a faint smile, "Don't use those terms. We small businesses are uncultured and don't understand. Anyway, the item sold is definitely not refundable." Before Tian Saori could speak, Xiaoqun walked over with Cheng Menjing's purple earring. He asked directly, "Boss, you said that this thing is made of 925 pure silver? Are you sure? Do you have an appraisal certificate for the earring?" Xiaoqun originally didn't want to interfere with the little quarrel between Tian Saori and Cheng Menjing. However, the stall owner was obviously taking advantage of the situation. He reported the price against his conscience, and Cheng Menjing and the rest didn't realize it at all. She even paid for it stupidly. Although he had set up a stall before, he had always operated with integrity. What he hated the most was using fake goods to make a fortune. As long as he released a little of his mental power, Xiaoqun could sense that the earring was not made of pure silver. In addition, the stall owner's attitude towards Tian Saori was so bad that Xiaoqun was instantly enraged. "Of course. We are businessmen and honesty is the most important thing. This is the appraisal report. Take a look." The stall owner didn't seem to be surprised. He took out a booklet from somewhere and handed it over. Xiaoqun took it and glanced at it. He found that the words on it were very blurry, and there were no anti-counterfeiting signs or barcodes. It was obviously a fake. "You dare to fool people with this kind of appraisal report that can be duplicated for 1 yuan? It can only fool those little girls." Xiaoqun frowned and threw the booklet on the ground. "Don't talk nonsense over there." The stall owner jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He looked Xiaoqun up and down and said in a shrill voice, "What proof do you have that I'm fooling you? Don't spout nonsense if you don't have any evidence. Do you believe that I will go to the market management office to sue you for slander and let the security take care of you?" Cheng Menjing and Tian Saoring were watching from the side. Even though they didn't like each other, they knew that Xiaoqun was supporting them, so they didn't say anything. Xiaoqun laughed coldly. He took out a purple ear stud from the box and pinched it lightly. With a kacha sound, the ear stud was directly broken by Xiaoqun, revealing the metal inside. The metal was a rusty yellow with a greenish tint. It was obvious that it was made of low-quality copper with a layer of silver on the surface. Raising the ear stud in front of the stall owner, Xiaoqun asked coldly, "Didn't you say that it's pure silver? Then explain to me what kind of metal is this?" The stall owner didn't expect Xiaoqun to be so strong that he could directly break the ear stud. He was shocked and his face turned red and white. He stuttered and couldn't speak. "What this and that? Aren't you going to the market management office? Let's go. I want to see if I can fine you 8 or 10,000 yuan for selling fake goods." Xiaoqun grabbed the stall owner's wrist and dragged him out. Wait. Let's talk this out. I was also cheated when I was buying goods. I'm a victim just like you guys. At most I'll refund you the money and give you the ear stud as a gift." The stall owner struggled a few times, but realized that his wrist was locked by an iron hoop. He couldn't break free at all. Left with no choice, he could only beg for mercy. "Dream on. Do you know that this is fraud? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and follow me to the market management office. Otherwise I won't be polite." Xiaoqun threatened relentlessly. "Don't. Let's talk this out. Let's talk this out." The stall owner's face was bitter. His heart was full of grievances. He was really unlucky today. He didn't expect to meet such a tough customer like Xiaoqun. If he really went to the market management office, the fine was secondary. The key was that his stall would definitely be closed down. Where else could he find such a good place to make money? Seeing that Xiaoqun couldn't make an exception, the stall owner turned his head and saw Cheng Menjing standing on the side. He immediately became spirited and said to her with a sad face, "This beautiful classmate. I was really cheated. It wasn't intentional. How about this? I'll give you a pair of ear studs. I won't charge extra money. Just take it as compensation. What do you think? It's not easy for us to run a small business." Xiaoyi, he was cheated when buying goods. He's also one of the victims. Since it was unintentional, how about we just let it go? Cheng Menjing was, after all, inexperienced. Seeing that the stall owner was begging, she thought that he was telling the truth. She felt that he was quite pitiful, so she didn't think too much about it and pleaded with Xiaoqun for leniency. "Yeah, it's all my fault. I couldn't tell the truth from the fake. Also, this young lady is also begging for leniency for me. Little brother, don't bother about it. Be magnanimous and let me go." Seeing that there was hope, The stall owner quickly took advantage of the situation. Okay. I'll listen to you. Xiao Chen let go of his hand and warned with a cold face, only this time. Don't do it again. If I find out that you're selling shoddy goods again, don't blame me for turning against you. The stall owner nodded repeatedly. His back was drenched in cold sweat. How could there be a next time? If I see you again, I won't do business with you no matter how many things you buy. Xiao Chen nodded in satisfaction. Actually, he was just trying to scare the stall owner. He was so short of money now. 150 yuan was a large amount. How could he spend it recklessly? Miss was really something. She forgot everything when she fought with others. Hold on. Sister Sour Sour wants to change too. You can't just give her one and not give me one, right? We're together. Tian Sour saw Cheng Minjing picking the ear studs and quickly went up to him. Okay. I'll give you one too. The stall owner returned the money to Cheng Minjing. He had no choice but to agree helplessly. He couldn't wait for these people to take their things and leave quickly. Anyway, the price of the ear studs was only a few yuan. It didn't matter if he gave them one more pair. As long as he could send this group of plagues away, it was fine. Tian Suruan was very happy. She put on a big smile and stood there picking out the earrings. Unfortunately, there was only one pair of purple earrings on Xiao Chen's hand. In the end, after picking and choosing, she could only choose a dark green one. How shameless. Following someone else's boyfriend to take advantage of you. Learning to grow white hair from someone else. Following someone else makes you a puppy. Cheng Minjing snorted. Tian Sour rolled her eyes. Hey, how did you know that Sister Sour Sour wanted to take advantage of your boyfriend? It seems that you have the awareness of being a concubine. Tian Sour was not offended. She asked back with a smile. She didn't take Cheng Minjing's mockery to heart at all. You. Cheng Minjing was speechless. She clenched her fists tightly and didn't know what to do. Quarreling with others had always been her weakness. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked Jean Bebe for help when she couldn't win an argument against Yi Xiaoye. Haha, I'm just kidding. Your loser boyfriend is too ugly. Only a loser like you would like him. Sister Sour doesn't care about him. Don't worry for nothing. Tian Sour said proudly when she saw Cheng Minjing was speechless. This is what you said. Don't regret it in the future. Cheng Minjing blurted out such a sentence for no reason. Hee, Sister Sour never regrets it. Tian Sour waved her hand carelessly. Alright Sour, let's go back to school. We still have classes in the afternoon. Seeing that the matter had come to an end, Su Chuxia left with Tian Sour. She was afraid that Sour would say something wrong and cause a conflict with Cheng Minjing again. Looking at Tian Sour's back as he left, Cheng Minjing's sullenness disappeared. Instead she thought proudly, I knew there was something going on between you and Xiao Chen. Now that you said it yourself, let's see what you can do in the future. Xiaoyi, let's go back to school. I don't even have time to go shopping after Tian Sour made a scene. I'm leaving now. Hurry up. Jiamuzan stood by the side for a long time. Seeing that it was almost afternoon, he hurriedly left after giving some instructions. He was also worried that he wouldn't be able to make it for the afternoon classes. Xiao Chen and Cheng Minjing weren't in a hurry. They walked toward the school leisurely. They were arranged to get into the school through their connections. It wouldn't matter if they missed one class. On the way back, Cheng Minjing's expression was a little gloomy. She felt that it was a pity. The purple ear stud was actually quite beautiful. She didn't expect it to be broken. However, it wasn't Xiao Chen's fault. If he didn't do that, she would have spent 150 yuan on a fake for nothing. However, if that thing was sold for 15 yuan, she would still buy it. Here, this is for you. Xiao Chen seemed to have seen through Cheng Minjing's thoughts. He magically took out a box from his pocket and handed it to her. Cheng Minjing looked down. To her surprise, it was the purple ear stud from before. However, it was still intact. Hey, didn't you break this ear stud? Why is it still fine? Cheng Minjing asked in surprise. She clearly saw Xiao Chen break it with her own eyes. How could it be fine now? Oh, I just used an illusion just now. Didn't you control Tian Sour Sour's mind as well? Xiao Chen shrugged and said nonchalantly. So that's how it is. Cheng Minjing nodded in realization. When she heard the latter part of Xiao Chen's words, she curled her lips and said with a face full of dissatisfaction, You think I like it? It's all Tian Sour's fault. If she didn't go against me, why would I use my mind power to control her? Chapter 899. Okay, but we still have to be careful in the future. Although we are cultivators and it is not so easy to be noticed by other cultivators, we are in a special period after all, and it is better to be cautious in everything. Xiaoqun did not mean to blame Qing Minjing, but simply said a few words. When he first learned the skills of cultivators, didn't he also overestimate himself? Shortly after Xiaoqun and others left, 2 more students came to the jewelry stall. One of them was quite strong and looked like a martial artist, and the other was his follower. Biaozi, what are you playing at? Didn't you say that there are beautiful girls here? Why can't I even see a ghost? As far as the eye can see, it is all dinosaurs and antis. The strong man was quite dissatisfied and turned to ask his follower. Young Master Wei, how dare I lie to you? I did see 2 beautiful girls at the barbecue shop just now and I followed them all the way here. I saw them picking jewelry, so I went back to find you. Biaozi was very puzzled. Could it be such a coincidence? In such a short time the 2 girls had disappeared? Hey, where are the 2 girls just now? One of them is wearing very revealing clothes and looks quite good. The other one looks like a pure and innocent girl. Do you see them? If you saw them, tell me honestly. Du Rongwei kicked the jewelry stall and asked with a frown. I saw them. They seem to have gone back to school. They just left not long ago. The stall owner was shocked and replied cautiously. The 2 people in front of him did not look like good people and he could not afford to provoke them. Damn it. No matter how fast we rush, we are still 1 step late. Du Rongwei was very dissatisfied and he kicked the jewelry stall to vent his anger. A lot of small jewelry was kicked to the ground, and the stall owner did not dare to say anything. Biaozi rolled his eyes and said with a flattering face, Young Master Wei, don't worry. This person said that they went back to school, so they must be from Lanqing University. There is only such a school nearby. When I go back, I will inquire about it and report to young Master Wei if there is any news. Well, that's the only way. Du Rongwei nodded gloomily. He was a little disappointed in his heart. Let's go. There are no beauties here. There's nothing to stay in this broken place. Student, our Extreme Karate Dojo has a big promotion. With a VIP card, you can get a 20% discount on your tuition. You can also experience a free class. Are you interested in learning? Du Rongwei turned around and was about to leave when a middle-aged man suddenly blocked his way. He asked with a smile and handed him a golden VIP card. Diske, what Extreme Karate? It's just a scam. This young master is the president of Lan City University's karate club. Why would I need to learn your rubbish? Du Rongwei waved his hand and slapped the VIP card away. Then he prepared to leave with a look of disdain. Wait. The middle-aged man picked up the VIP card and called out to Du Rongwei, You're such a coward, and you have the nerve to call yourself the president of the karate club? If you have the ability, let's spar. If you lose, you'll have to go to my karate dojo. F***ck your mother's leg. Du Rongwei flew into a rage. This bastard dared to call him a coward? When had he ever been scolded like this in his life? Before the middle-aged man could finish, Du Rongwei lifted his leg and kicked. You overestimate yourself. The middle-aged man snorted coldly. He didn't dodge and casually swung his fist at Du Rongwei's foot. Du Rongwei originally had a contemptuous smile on his face. He felt that the middle-aged man was an idiot. The strength of his foot was much stronger than his fist. Wasn't this clearly letting him take advantage of him? However, the moment the fist and foot collided, there was a loud bang. A loud sound rang out, and Du Rongwei felt a sharp pain in the soles of his feet. In the next moment he was sent flying. Riding on the clouds, he flew backward for several meters and with a bang sound he fell into a daze. Are you looking to die? How dare you attack young Master Wei? Do you know who the Du family of Lan City is? Biaozi on the side was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he quickly ran to help Du Rongwei up and threatened the middle-aged man with a lack of confidence. Hee, I thought you were really something. I didn't expect you to be so weak. Even a random monkey is better than you. You've lost all the face of karate. The middle-aged man casually patted the dust off his hands and slowly walked toward Du Rongwei. Oh, what do you want? I'll admit defeat. Du Rongwei had an advantage. Although he was usually arrogant, once he met someone stronger than him, he would bow his head and admit defeat. He didn't blush and his heart didn't beat fast. He changed very naturally. I have already said that if you lose, you will go to the Extreme Karate Dojo with me and then worship me as your teacher. The middle-aged man crossed his arms and said. He didn't want to embarrass Du Rongwei too much. This guy seemed to have a rich family background. He estimated that he could get a lot of money from him. His karate dojo had just opened and was in need of funds. It would be a waste not to take advantage of a fat duck that came to him. That's it. Du Rongwei was helped up by Biaozi and asked doubtfully. Anyway, believe it or not, it's up to you. The Extreme Karate Dojo is in front. It's up to you whether you want to enter or not. Even if you enter, whether you can learn real skills or not depends on how much sincerity you have. The middle-aged man raised the corner of his mouth and said lightly. Then he turned and walked to the karate dojo not far away. Du Rongwei pondered for a while and followed. He had an almost fanatical obsession with karate. He had been practicing since he was a child. However, after reaching a certain level, he found that he couldn't break through anymore. Now that there was someone stronger than him willing to teach him, he naturally wanted to give it a try. As for the sincerity that the middle-aged man mentioned, Du Rongwei also knew what it meant. It was nothing more than spending more money. Although the Du family wasn't the #1 family in Lan City, they were still well off. Du Rongwei felt that as long as he could break through, it wouldn't be a problem to spend tens of millions. In order to prevent himself from being cheated, he would only pay after he finished learning. When he arrived at the Extreme Karate Dojo, Du Rongwei found that there were quite a lot of people signing up. However, they were all taught by a relatively young man. He followed the middle-aged man all the way into an office. In the office, a red-haired man was leaning on the sofa and smoking. The middle-aged man walked over and whispered a few words to him. Then he pointed at Du Rongwei behind him. The red-haired man nodded after listening. He glanced sideways at Du Rongwei and signaled the middle-aged man to leave first. Sit down and talk. After the middle-aged man left, the red-haired man pinched the cigarette butt and crossed his legs. He said unhurriedly, I'm the owner of this karate dojo. I heard that you know a thing or two. And you're also the president of the Lanqing University Karate Club? The red-haired man was the red-haired man. Last time he caused trouble for Ling Qianxue, he was directly kicked out by Yorishima Kikuo and lost his backing. However, the two ninjas who followed him also offended Ling Qianxue. After they returned with their tails between their legs, they were scolded by Yorishima Kikuo and also kicked out of the Sakura group. After leaving Yi Dao Kufu, the three of them gathered together with their faces covered in dirt. They were afraid that Ling Qianxue and the Youqiao seller were still in Songning, so they simply didn't go to Songning and directly stayed in Lan City. Because they had lost their source of income, the three of them plotted for a while and decided to do some business in the lively student market to earn some living expenses. They had nothing but martial arts, so in the end they chose to open a karate dojo. The three of them were very proud. Originally, the middle-aged ninja wouldn't go out to advertise himself, but the advanced class he was in charge of teaching hadn't recruited a single student yet. The student workers who were hired to distribute the flyers still had classes in the afternoon. Seeing that the day was going to be wasted, he had no choice but to go out and distribute VIP cards by himself. He didn't expect to meet a fat sheep like Du Rongwei. I'm ashamed. Although I'm the president of the karate club, I've only learned a little. I'm no match for that middle-aged expert. Du Rongwei didn't know what the red-haired man was planning, but seeing that the middle-aged man seemed to be very respectful to him, he was modest. It seems that you still have some self-awareness. The red-haired man smacked his lips and picked up the cigarette box. When he found that it was empty, he immediately frowned. Upon seeing this, Du Rongwei hurriedly took out a brand new box of premium cigarettes from his trouser pocket and handed it over. He originally wanted to enjoy this cigarette for himself, but now he could use it to serve the red-haired man. The red-haired man took it, lit the cigarette, took a deep puff, and blew out a smoke ring in satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. You're worth teaching. How about this? I can arrange a private advanced karate class for you. It'll be taught by the uncle who just defeated you, and it'll be one-on-one VIP treatment. However, the tuition fee. He didn't continue and only made a "you understand" expression. I understand. I understand. Du Rongwei immediately followed up and nodded. However, although he was a hedonistic son of a rich family, his brain was quite sharp. He rolled his eyes and said, But can I wait until I finish learning before paying the tuition fee? Don't worry, it's not that I don't have money. It's just that this is our first meeting. What if I pay the money and you guys run away? How am I going to explain myself? Of course, no problem. This is also human nature. However, I'll say the ugly words first. You have to pay 100,000 as a deposit first. Otherwise, after you learn it, you'll just leave. Wouldn't our club suffer a huge loss? The red-haired man waved his hand and said casually, Okay. It's only 100,000. I can pay now. Du Rongwei immediately took out a bank card from his arms and called Biaozi, who was standing outside the door, and then he gave the bank card to him to pay. After Biaozi left, he looked at the red-haired man with an urgent face and asked, "Boss, when can I start learning?" Chapter 900. Sure enough. The red-haired guy gave him a thumbs up. At this moment he saw the middle-aged ninja standing outside the door and giving him an okay gesture. The red-haired guy knew that the deposit was in his hand, so he said with a smile, "Since you are so thirsty for knowledge, then we can start the class now. You can go outside and find that uncle. He will tell you how to train in the future." Okay. Then I will go now. Thank you, boss. Du Rongwei stood up and excitedly rubbed his hands. He turned around and ran out the door. After the middle-aged ninja got the red-haired guy's instructions, he took him to an empty classroom to train. Looking at Du Rongwei's excited face, the red-haired guy scratched his chin and felt a little regretful. If I knew this rich guy was so rich, he wouldn't care about 100,000 yuan at all. I should have cheated him of more deposit. Anyway, I don't have to return it in the future. I still reported too little. What a mistake. On the other side, Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing walked to the door of the classroom. The first class in the afternoon had already begun, and it happened to be the ancient martial arts class. Professor Zhong was holding a textbook and explaining the content on the podium with a serious face. Jia Muzhen ran back, so he rushed back to the classroom before the bell rang. As for Xiao Qin and Cheng Minjing, they were late. Even so, Xiao Qin still swaggered into the classroom from the back door. However, as soon as he stepped through the door, Xiao Qin felt that two people were unscrupulously looking at him. He didn't need to look up to know that it must be Xing and Ling Qianxue. After all, only the two of them in the class would do this. They probably wanted to observe to see if he was really Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin was too lazy to pay attention to them. He didn't even look up. He randomly found an empty seat and sat down. He opened the book and started reading. Cheng Minjing didn't follow Xiao Qin in. Her skin wasn't as thick as Xiao Qin's, so she was a little embarrassed. When he was in Songning High School, he had always been a good student. He had never been late for class. He didn't expect that he would break the rule when he went to college. After hesitating for a while, Cheng Minjing apologized to Professor Zhong with a red face. She then stood outside the door and waited for instructions. There were only a few people in the large classroom. Professor Zhong naturally saw the movement at the back door. He put down his textbook and gestured for Cheng Minjing to come in. He then frowned at Xiao Qin and said, "The male student sitting in the back row, stand up." Xiao Qin looked up and found that Professor Zhong was staring at him. He had no choice but to stand up with an innocent look on his face. Looking at Xiao Qin's expression, Professor Zhong got even angrier and said in a deep voice, "You're Xiao Yi, right?" It was one thing for him to be late for class, but not only did he not show any signs of remorse, he even walked in so brazenly. He was simply disrespecting his elders. Go to the corridor and stand there until the end of class. Oh, okay. Xiao Qin was stunned. He rubbed his nose helplessly. He didn't intend to explain too much, so he stood up and walked out. He was afraid that if he said too much, Miss Xing and Ling Qianxue, who were paying close attention to him, would notice something wrong. Cheng Minjing, who had just walked to her seat, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She thought to herself, that was close. Fortunately, I was smart and chose to apologize to Professor Zhong first. If I came in with Xiao Qin, I would definitely be standing in the corridor like a fool. That would be too embarrassing. Young Master Xing, I think that Xiao Yi looks a bit stupid. Is he Xiao Qin in disguise? Do you think we are looking in the wrong direction? Ling Qianxue asked in a low voice as she looked at Xiao Qin, who was obediently standing outside. In her impression, Xiao Qin was an incomparably crafty fellow with a belly full of evil tricks. He was completely unlike this Xiao Yi who was so stupid. Miss Xing shook her head and said, "Not necessarily. It could be Xiao Qin pretending. Don't forget, Xiao Qin was protecting Ling Qinyu and the research facility at Lanqing University. There is a high chance that he is hiding here." Although she said that, Miss Xing couldn't be sure. She was only guessing based on the clues. Xiao Qin had gone to school here before, so Miss Xing put herself in Xiao Qin's shoes and thought about it. She felt that if she was Xiao Qin, she would also choose this place to hide. After all, people like to go to familiar places. Thus, Miss Xing played a little trick and brought Ling Qianxue to Lanqing University. When she arrived, she found out that Ling Qianyu's dormitory was occupied by a girl named Qing Yaoyao. Her boyfriend's name was Xiao Yi. Just these two surnames that were too coincidental were enough to make Xingyu suspicious. Not only that, Miss Xing knew that Ling Qinyu was the granddaughter of the Supernatural Investigation Department's chief Ling Tian. Her background was special and she used to live alone. And with her identity, who would dare to arrange for someone to live with her? Therefore, this new Qing Yaoyao must have used the Supernatural Investigation Department's connections to be able to live with Ling Qinyu. After Ling Qianxue heard this, she immediately felt that it was true. The two of them discussed quietly as they listened to the lecture. Time passed quickly and the class was about to end. However, the two of them still hadn't come up with any countermeasures. They could only helplessly decide to slowly interact with Xiao Yi. After gradually getting familiar with him, they would find a chance to test him. Okay, this class will end here. The content this time is more difficult. If any student doesn't understand anything, you can find other students to discuss it. Class dismissed. Professor Zhong gave a simple explanation. Then he picked up his textbook and walked out of the classroom. Go in. Be careful next time. When he passed by Xiao Qin, Professor Zhong lectured him before leaving. Alright, I have an idea. Miss Xing heard Professor Zhong's words and her eyes lit up. She whispered to Ling Qianxue with a sneaky face, "In a while, I will find Qing Yaoyao to discuss the problem. You go find Xiao Yi then." This isn't good, right? I haven't done this kind of thing before. After Ling Qianxue heard this, she looked embarrassed, but she didn't know how to refuse. What did Night Island Wakabayashi tell you before? Do you dare to disobey the order? Miss Xing's tone was solemn as she scolded. But, Ling Qianxue was in a dilemma. She couldn't speak for a long time. Miss Xing wanted to say more, but when she looked up and saw Xiao Qin walking into the classroom, she quickly picked up her textbook and stood up. She didn't forget to say a sentence. Remember, I will go install Qing Yaoyao now. No matter what method you use, you must find out if that guy is Xiao Qin. This is an order. After that, Miss Xing pushed away her chair and went straight to Qing Yaoyao's side. Then she pretended to be at a loss and asked her questions. At first, Qing Minjing was shocked. She thought that Miss Xing was here to cause trouble for her, but when she saw Miss Xing take out her textbook and ask a few professional questions, Qing Minjing's heart finally relaxed. She began to discuss the content of the lecture with Miss Xing. Ling Qianshue's expression was very helpless. She sat in her seat for a while and finally, a trace of determination flashed in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and unbuttoned her shirt, faintly revealing her firm chest and cleavage. Then she took a deep breath and walked in the direction of Xiao Qin. At this time, Xiao Qin didn't notice Ling Qianxue. His gaze was still on Miss Xing, who was discussing the problem with Qing Minjing. He was quite puzzled. What kind of trick was this Miss Xing playing? She actually wanted to discuss a topic with Qing Minjing? And she looked quite serious. Did she really think everyone else was a fool? Student Xiao Yi, I don't quite understand the content of the lecture just now. Can I trouble you to explain it to me? Ling Qianshue's cheeks were slightly red. She coyly walked in front of Xiao Qin and pretended to ask in a sweet and greasy voice. Seduction. This was the strategy that Miss Xing told Ling Qianxue. Miss Xing believed that as long as it was a man, they would definitely be lustful. Xiao Qin was no exception. With Ling Qianshue's beauty and a little seduction, perhaps Xiao Qin would fall under her skirt. Then they could take the opportunity to find out his true identity. Xiao Qin looked at Ling Qianxue with a faint smile and said, Student, I was punished to stand in the hallway for an entire class, and you actually came to ask me questions from the textbook. If you're not blind, then you're seriously ill. Ling Qianshue's eyes lit up. He finally understood. That Miss Xing was responsible for holding back Qing Minjing, and Ling Qianxue was here to probe him. She really put in a lot of effort. But this Ling Qianshue's brain didn't seem to be too good. She even made such a low-level mistake. But the other students in the class seem to be quite cold towards me. I feel that only you seem more enthusiastic and will definitely help me solve the problem. That's why I specifically came to ask you. Ling Qianxue stuttered. In her heart, she was also secretly annoyed. In a moment of panic, she actually forgot about the matter of Xiao Qin being punished to stand. But now that things had come to this, she could only brace herself and continue. Otherwise, how could she clean up this mess? It wasn't easy for her to muster up her courage. She couldn't give up halfway. Without waiting for Xiao Qin to reply, Ling Qianxue pulled him to sit down. She deliberately leaned her upper body forward and used her black eyes to look at Xiao Qin. She said coquettishly, Student Xiao Yi, help me take a look. Maybe you're talented and don't need to listen to the teacher. You'll quickly understand this problem? Xiaoqun almost burst out laughing. Ling Qinxue was indeed worthy of being a Japanese girl. She was actually so ignorant. Didn't she know that talented had another layer of meaning? However, Xiaoqun discovered that after Ling Qinxue made this pose from his angle, this little girl's cleavage was indeed quite good. Xiaoqun admired that deep cleavage and was a bit distracted. He didn't even notice that Qing Minjing and little Miss Xing had walked up behind him. "Xiaoyi, what are you looking at? Isn't it very enjoyable?" Qing Minjing said in a lukewarm tone. "Ah." Xiaoqun subconsciously replied. He suddenly realized that it was Qing Minjing's voice. He suddenly froze and awkwardly coughed twice. "Ahem, classmate Ling, I've researched this problem for a bit. I'm still not too sure. Why don't you ask my girlfriend? She's a good student. She should take notes in class." Chapter 901. Turning his head to look, Xiaoqun discovered that Qing Minjing was glaring at him with eyes that were about to emit smoke. He could only laugh dryly, stand up from his seat and slowly move away. "Speak. What questions do you have to ask? You and your wife seem to have quite a tacit understanding. Both of you have questions. I don't know what you were thinking in class, but you didn't even understand such a simple thing." Qing Minjing glared at Xiaoqun again, took 2 steps forward and angrily slammed the textbook on the table, making a loud "pa" sound. This gave Ling Qinxue a fright. Just now, when little Miss Xing went to find Qing Minjing to ask questions, she asked about the contents of the ancient martial arts textbook. Although the contents of ancient martial arts were more profound to ordinary people, as a cultivator, Qing Minjing quickly understood the main points. Thus, she didn't spend too much time explaining to little Miss Xing. After she finished, Qing Minjing inadvertently turned her head and saw Xiaoqun's perverted face. His eyes stared unblinkingly at Ling Qinshue's cleavage, which directly made her explode with anger. "Ah, Yao classmate really knows how to joke. Just now you already explained most of it to me. I can understand it all. In a bit I'll help my girlfriend and it'll be fine. There's no need to trouble yourself." Little Miss Xing saw that the situation wasn't looking good, so she hurriedly smiled and tried to smooth things over. "Oh, that's fine. In the future, if there's anything you don't understand, you can directly ask me. My boyfriend is a bit stupid and he doesn't pay attention in class. There's no way he can explain anything to you. There's no need to find him." Qing Minjing didn't force the issue. She picked up the textbook and spoke indifferently. Then she turned around and walked out. When she passed by Xiaoqun, Qing Minjing coldly snorted. Xiaoqun didn't say anything and obediently followed behind her, walking out of the classroom. Watching the two of them leave, little Lady Xing and Ling Qinshuo looked at each other and felt a deep sense of helplessness. It seemed that this method was not very effective. They could only try harder. After leaving the classroom, Qing Minjing walked in front with an angry face, while Xiaoqun followed her obediently. He opened his mouth several times but didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say to ease the situation. However, Xiaoqun wasn't too worried. According to the eldest Mrs. Temper in the past, she would probably be fine after a while. "Hey Missy, we've already walked past the girls' dormitory. Where are we going?" After walking for a while, they passed by the girls' dormitory, but Qing Minjing didn't intend to go in at all. She kept walking and went straight to the school gate. Xiaoqun was puzzled and asked, "Do you even need to ask?" "Of course, we're going to the motel to get a room." Qing Minjing turned her head and roared in exasperation. She suddenly realized that many of the students around her were pointing at her and whispering among themselves. She then realized that she had spoken too loudly. Seeing Xiaoqun looking at her with a dull face, Qing Minjing could only bite her lower lip and said in a low voice, "Don't think too much. What I mean is, let's go for dual cultivation. As long as we can quickly increase our strength, we won't have to listen to others anymore." "Ahem, I wasn't thinking too much. It's all because of your shouting that we attracted so many onlookers." Xiaoqun shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, "You still dare to quibble? I saw it clearly just now. You stared at Ling Qinshuo without blinking. You were almost drooling." Qing Minjing shouted while glaring at Xiaoqun when she recalled the scene just now. She was infuriated again when she recalled it. Hearing Qing Minjing's voice getting louder again, Xiaoqun quickly pulled her to a less crowded place. The crowd had just dispersed and he didn't want to attract another wave of people. Qing Minjing didn't resist. She just walked and mumbled angrily, "Don't think that I don't know. You definitely want to do that with Ling Qinshuo? You men are all bad. You eat from the bowl and look at the pot. You already have me, isn't that enough?" Missy, you're wronging me. I don't even have anything in my bowl. You never let me eat either. Xiao Chen cried out innocently. Xiao Chen was also quite helpless. What kind of logic was Missy using? He just looked at Ling Qianxue a few times. Did it mean that he wanted to do that with her? It seemed that he did want to. You are my fiancé. Why do you always stare at other women? If you do it secretly, I won't pursue it. But I was just beside you. Cheng Menjing felt a little wronged when she heard Xiao Jiao's argument. She couldn't help but complain softly, and you and Yi Xiaoye, Shen Jingxian, Tang Tang, Kerlin, and Lu Shuangshuang are already together. Why don't you restrain yourself a little? Have you ever thought about my feelings as your fiancé? I've wronged you before, so I turned a blind eye to it. But now. Xiao Chen's heart moved. He put away his previous joking expression. Thinking about it carefully, he did go a little too far. Cheng Menjing was his fiancée and she was still going through thick and thin with him. Although it seemed that Ma Wuxia was looking for trouble because of the Qing family, Xiao Chen actually knew that without the Qing family, Ma Wuxia would still look for trouble with him. The Xiao family, the Quishan faction, and Qi Tian sect had long been enemies. So, at this moment, Xiao Chen suddenly looked at Missy in a daze. Yes, what kind of shameful things have I done recently? Isn't it a blessing to have this fiancé who never leaves me and goes through thick and thin with me? I'm sorry, Menjing. I'll pay more attention next time, Xiao Chen suddenly said. What did you say? Cheng Menjing was stunned. She looked at Xiao Chen strangely. She didn't expect him to say that. Although Xiao Chen used to listen to her every time, it was half-heartedly. In fact, he never really listened to her. And Cheng Menjing also knew that he didn't really like her as his fiancée, so she didn't say anything. But today, nothing. I said it's getting late. Let's hurry to the Express Hotel. Today is Friday. We won't be able to book a room if it's late. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and then walked out of the school gate. So sneaky. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. Cheng Menjing snorted, but she was very happy in her heart. She was actually very easily satisfied. Even Shen Jingxian could accept it, let alone Ling Qianxue. She was just angry that Xiao Chen messed around in front of her, so it was inevitable that she was in a bad mood. After losing her temper, she felt that Xiao Chen treated her quite well. Especially when Xiao Chen admitted his mistake, she felt a little regretful. Was her request too strict? She couldn't help but want to agree to the relationship between Xiao Chen and Ling Qianxue, but she was afraid that he would take advantage of her. Actually, deep in her heart, Cheng Menjing didn't mind Xiao Chen and Ling Qianxue getting closer. After all, if they could be loyal to Xiao Chen, they would be a great help to him. But with her personality, she wouldn't say these words easily. In the next few days, apart from dual cultivation, Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing went to class and studied. When they had free time, they would wander around with Jianghu. Of course, they would also interact with the two girls, Tian Suruan and Su Chuxia. In fact, the one who took the initiative was Tian Suruan. She kept making excuses to get close to Xiao Chen and the others, wanting to find out about Jianghu's background and life experience. So, she slowly became familiar with both Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing. However, although Jianghu looked ordinary, when faced with all kinds of questions from Tian Suruan, he was very tight-lipped and didn't mention a word about his family. Tian Suruan was also quite helpless when faced with this kind of person who didn't leak anything. But she still didn't give up and continued to wander around them. A cultivator's dual cultivation speed was obviously much faster than other cultivators' dual cultivation. In just half a month, Xiao Chen had become a master at the peak of the 7th level of the Golden Core stage. Although Cheng Menjing's cultivation speed was slightly slower than Xiao Chen's, she also successfully broke through to the 1st level of the Golden Core stage, which was equivalent to the strength of the peak of the 1st level of the Demon King. If this kind of cultivation speed was in the eyes of ordinary people, it was no different from riding a roller coaster. Reaching the peak of the 7th level of the Golden Core stage, Xiao Chen had a very definite feeling that as long as he could continue the dual cultivation smoothly, it wouldn't take long for him to reach the peak of the 9th level of the Golden Core stage, or even the perfect stage of the 10th level. At that time, it would not be a problem for him to openly step into the inner martial arts world, let alone take a detour. However, having said that, Xiao Chen didn't forget the real purpose of cultivation, which was to find the whereabouts of his father, Xiao Feng. He knew that only when his strength reached that height would he have enough capital to talk to the inner martial arts world. It was another weekend. Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing's dual cultivation had come to an end. They went out for a meal and then wandered around the student market. As he was chatting with Cheng Menjing, Xiao Chen's phone suddenly rang. He picked it up and glanced at it. When he saw that it was Jia Muzhen calling, he pressed the answer button. Xiaoyi, this is Jia Muzhen. Where are you? Jia Muzhen's voice was a little anxious. Oh, I'm strolling outside the school with Cheng Yaoyao. What happened? Xiao Chen heard the other party's eagerness, so he asked directly. President Dong was sparring with another club this morning. As a result, he was injured and unconscious. He is now in the school infirmary. Jia Muzhen lowered his voice. What? How could this happen? Xiao Chen frowned and asked in a deep voice. It's a bit complicated. Can you come over? Jia Muzhen hesitated and asked. He didn't explain the cause of the matter immediately. No problem. Wait for me. I'll be there right away. Xiao Chen didn't say much. He put down the phone and turned to Cheng Menjing. President Dong was injured. I'll go over to see the situation. Can you go back to the hotel and wait for me? How can I do that? I'm also a Demon King level 1 master, and I'm also a member of the martial arts club. How can I not be present when such a big thing happened? Cheng Menjing also heard the contents of Xiao Chen's phone call. She pulled Xiao Chen away from the market and went to the infirmary of Lanqing University. Chapter 902. In the waiting area outside the infirmary, in addition to Jia Muzhen pacing back and forth anxiously, there were 2 martial arts club members sitting there. However, both of them had bruises all over their bodies. It seemed that they were also beaten up. Fortunately, although the 2 of them were bruised and swollen, their bodies were still strong. It seemed that they were fine. How is President Dong? Which club is he from? Seeing the closed door of the infirmary, Xiao Chen frowned and asked. He thought that the martial arts club and the university would mainly communicate with each other. He didn't expect them to be so ruthless. Aren't they afraid of punishment from the university? His injury is more serious. He is still bandaged inside. Jia Muzhen pointed in the direction of the infirmary, then shook his head and said, Actually, when I went to the martial arts club to train this morning, I found that the president and 2 members were injured on the ground. I don't know the specific situation. Anyway, it's quite complicated. As soon as Jia Muzhen finished speaking, the door of the infirmary opened. Several people turned their heads and saw Dong Zhiqi staggering out with the help of the medical staff. His head was wrapped in gauze and his right hand was also in a thick cast. Looked terrible. His injury was much more serious than the other 2 members. After going back, rest well. Don't do strenuous exercise for 3 months to avoid recurrence of old injuries. The medical staff said a few words. Dong Zhiqi nodded and sat on a chair outside the door to rest. You 2 come in. The medical staff pointed to the other 2 members who were slightly injured. The 2 people quickly followed in for treatment. Senior Dong, what happened? Who hurt you? Xiao Chen walked over and asked. I heard that a club came to have a duel? You guys are here too. Dong Zhiqi looked up and saw Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing. He nodded and said, the president of the Taekwondo club brought people over to have a duel. Unfortunately, our skills are not as good as them. It's just a club duel. How did you get hurt so badly? Xiao Chen's eyes fell on Dong Zhiqi's fractured right hand. He felt very puzzled. We didn't have any grudges with them before, right? Dong Zhiqi sighed and said with a helpless face, AI. It's not that we offended them. I heard that the president of the Taekwondo club was defeated by the president of the karate club yesterday. They are still angry. On the surface, they're here to learn from each other, but in reality, they're just trying to save their club's reputation. That's why they've deliberately picked our martial arts club, a pushover. In fact, they just want to save their reputation, so they deliberately picked our martial arts club. Cheng Menjing was so angry that she clenched her fists tightly. If she wasn't afraid of exposing her strength, she would have taught those abominable Taekwondo guys a lesson. I can't help it, I can only blame myself for not being strong enough. If I was as strong as Wang Jingtian, those people wouldn't dare to challenge me so easily. Dong Zhiqi shook his head. He suddenly looked around and asked, Ha? Ian and said and fourth. E, Nand and fourth, and fourth. And of Jia Muzhen replied. Suddenly he thought of something. That's not right, President. Weren't you unconscious at that time? How did you know that Wang Jingtian was here? I regained consciousness on the way here and heard his voice, but I fainted again. Dong Zhiqi smiled bitterly. It's fine that he left. All right. Don't you have something else to do? Go and do your thing. You don't have to accompany me. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a few days. But, Senior, are we just going to let this go? They hurt us on purpose. The school should hold them accountable. Jianghu said indignantly. Even so, we have no eyes. Even if the school investigates, they won't punish us too severely. After all, we are all martial arts clubs. If I don't accept the challenge, they can't force me, so… this is… As Dong Zhiqi said this, his expression suddenly froze. He looked behind Xiao Chen and the others. Seeing Dong Zhiqi's expression, everyone followed his gaze and looked over. They were so surprised that they couldn't close their mouths. They saw a group of people outside the infirmary. It was the president and members of the Taekwondo club who provoked the martial arts club in the morning. At this time they were all bruised and swollen. They supported each other and came to the infirmary. Among them, the president was the most seriously injured. He was carried on a stretcher. His arms were hanging weakly, and his face was beaten like a pig's head. Hearing Jianghu quietly explain the identity of these people, Xiao Chen and Cheng Menjing were also shocked. They thought to themselves, this Taekwondo club is really unlucky. Looking at the situation, they should have been beaten up by other clubs. They just didn't know who did it. To be able to beat up this group of people, it should be a master. However, they didn't have long to wonder. The answer was soon revealed. A familiar figure walked in behind the people from the Taekwondo club. It was the cold man who was in the same class as Xiao Chen. He was also the vice president of the martial arts club, Wang Jingtian. With one look, Xiao Chen understood that it was Wang Jingtian who beat up the other party. With his standard of a level 3 martial artist, trampling on the Taekwondo club was as easy as stretching. Wang Jingtian crossed his arms in front of his chest. He was still expressionless. He walked to the side of the stretcher of the president of the Taekwondo club and looked down at him. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Not only did you dare to find trouble with the martial arts club, you even injured our president. Jump again if you have the guts. If you dare to show off in front of me again, it won't be as simple as breaking your arms. You can just wait to go to the hospital and eat your meals. Wang Jingtian said coldly. The president of the Taekwondo club didn't dare to reply. He could only pretend that he didn't hear it. He turned around and stared at his own club member. The club member understood tacitly and hurriedly carried the stretcher into the infirmary. The group of people from the Taekwondo club also ignored the existence of the martial arts club and rushed into the infirmary. They were about to die of sullenness. Yesterday they had just been beaten up by Du Rongwei from the karate club, and many of them were injured. Initially they wanted to go to the martial arts club to regain some face. As the weakest martial arts club in Lanqing University, it was still very easy to take them down. In the end, they didn't expect to be beaten up in less than half a day. Although they were very angry, they were helpless because their skills were inferior, so they could only silently endure it. Vice President Wang, although I know that you are thinking for the sake of the club, it doesn't seem appropriate for you to seriously injure them now. If they complain to the school, I'm afraid you will be expelled, Dong Zhiqi said worriedly when he saw that they were the only ones left outside. Although he knew that Wang Jingtian was taking revenge for the martial arts club and had good intentions, he was still a little too reckless. Although he was also beaten up, it wasn't that serious. Vice President Dong, you don't have to worry about this. I will take responsibility for my own actions and will never cause you any trouble. Also, these days I have investigated all the martial arts clubs in the school. I have already dealt with the Taekwondo club, next is the karate club. Wang Jingtian glanced at Dong Zhiqi and said arrogantly. You. Dong Zhiqi opened his mouth, but he still couldn't say anything. This kid is too arrogant. If both sides were to exchange pointers in a legitimate way, then the school might turn a blind eye to minor injuries. However, Wang Jingtian's current behavior was considered malicious revenge. Yet, Wang Jingtian took revenge because the martial arts club was trampled on. This made Dong Zhiqi not know whether to be angry or grateful. Senior Dong, since Wang Jingtian is so confident, let him go. You don't have to worry too much. Let your injuries heal first. Xiao Chen gently pressed on Dong Zhiqi's shoulder and comforted him. Actually, Xiao Chen didn't care who Wang Jingtian injured. In fact, he always felt that this guy's identity was a bit suspicious. Although Wang Jingtian was only a stage 3 inner force warrior, it was very likely that he was hiding his true strength just like he was in the past. Therefore, Xiao Chen had always been cautious, dealing with the myriad of changes by remaining calm. He even planned to find an opportunity to investigate in secret, lest he failed miserably in an easy task. One couldn't blame Xiao Chen for being suspicious. Due to the arrival of Xing Qianxue and Ling Qianxue, he couldn't help but be cautious. Previously at the morning market street, the two girls had only appeared for a few days before Ma Daobao and his men came to kill them. Although he wasn't sure if this matter had anything to do with them, Xiao Chen felt that it was better to be careful. He couldn't easily trust anyone around him. Not bad, this classmate knows how to speak. Wang Jingtian didn't know what Xiao Chen was thinking. He looked at him with satisfaction and asked, "Oh right, you look a bit familiar. Are you my classmate? Your name is Xiao, what's that?" "Oh, my name is Xiaoyi," Xiao Chen said lightly. "Not bad, that's a good name." Wang Jingtian nodded perfunctorily. Dong Zhiqi saw that Xiao Chen was speaking up for Wang Jingtian. He also knew that the matter had already happened. Even if he blamed Wang Jingtian, it would be useless. He could only sigh and say nothing. Wang Jingtian glanced at Dong Zhiqi and said casually, "All right, in order to celebrate our martial arts club successfully stepping on those taekwondo trash, as the vice president, I have decided to hold a grand celebration dinner on the second floor of the school cafeteria tonight. I hope everyone can come on time." After saying that, Wang Jingtian didn't care about the reactions of the people around him and swaggered out of the infirmary. No one knew where he was going. Since Wang Jingtian had invited them, they couldn't refuse. After all, this was their first gathering since joining the martial arts club, so they could only go together. By the time the other two members finished bandaging, the sky had already darkened. Everyone went directly to the school cafeteria. Chapter 903. Dong Zhiqi didn't really want to go. After all, his right hand was injured, so it was inconvenient for him to eat. Moreover, he didn't really agree with Wang Jingtian's actions, so it would be awkward to eat with him. However, under Jiamuzen's persuasion, Dong Zhiqi felt that it wouldn't be good if he didn't attend as he was the president. After some hesitation, he agreed to go with them. The group arrived at the second floor of the cafeteria. Wang Jingtian had already booked a private room and was waiting there. Xing Chue and Ling Qianxue were also there. Kai Zhuwei was also sitting at his seat, reading a secret manual. This scene surprised Xiao Chen. Even he didn't have the contact information of these three people. How did Wang Jingtian find them? However, after thinking about it carefully, it wasn't strange. As the vice president, it was very convenient for him to find the contact information of the club members. On the contrary, he had never integrated into the martial arts club. Recently, other than going to class, Xiao Chen spent the rest of his time either cultivating with his mistress or eating with Jiamuzen. Behind him were Su Chuxia and Tian Sauer, the two lackeys. He basically didn't have any contact with other people. This university student's life was very boring. Everyone sat down and chatted for a while. Then the waiter served the dishes. They were all from the same club, so they didn't bother with pleasantries. They picked up their chopsticks and started eating. During the meal, Xiao Chen seemed to be wolfing down the food on the surface, but he was secretly observing Wang Jingtian's every move. He found this guy quite interesting. Although he looked a little cold, he was a man who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. He knew how to adjust the atmosphere. Thanks to Wang Jingtian's jesting, the celebration banquet turned into a social gathering. Everyone was in high spirits, laughing and toasting each other. Before they knew it, a box of red wine was finished. After a few glasses of wine, Dong Zhiqi's gloomy face gradually brightened up. He gradually became more talkative and chatted loudly with Jiamuzen. However, most of their topics revolved around Wang Jingtian. Although there were praise and criticism, they revealed a lot of information. From their conversation, it wasn't hard to tell that although Wang Jingtian was usually arrogant, he was a very loyal person. After he joined the martial arts club, not only did he buy some training equipment at his own expense, but he also often did all kinds of publicity for the club on campus. In a fit of anger, Wang Jingtian had even stood up for the guild and challenged the other party. However, Dong Zhiqi still felt that he had been too impulsive. Little Chick Xing didn't care about these things at all. Recently, she had always wanted to get close to Xiao Chen, but she couldn't find the opportunity. It was rare that she could eat at the same table as Xiao Chen, so she naturally had to find a way to get closer. Xiaoyi were all classmates. In order to thank your girlfriend for helping me solve my problems, let me give you a toast. Miss Xing stood up and said in a rough voice. Then she raised her glass and downed it. Recently, Miss Xing had been looking for Cheng Menjing to solve her problems every few days. The reason why she wanted to use a man's appearance was because she wanted to see Xiao Chen's attitude. She wanted to see if he really didn't know her so she could test his true identity. In the end, after asking a lot of questions, there was no progress at all. Little Xing. It's not that I want to criticize you, but those ancient martial arts problems are quite easy. Don't just focus on dating in class. As long as you listen carefully, you will definitely understand. Then you won't have to bother Yao Yao all the time. Xiaoqin didn't continue the conversation. Instead, he put down his glass and said with a bit of dissatisfaction, "Oh, I'm not dating either." Little Xing was a bit guilty. Her eyes avoided his as she stammered. Xiaoqin ignored her and said unhappily, "You keep harassing her. You're making it so that I don't even have time to date Yao Yao. If this goes on, I'm going to charge you a consultation fee." With regards to Little Xing's harassment, Xiaoqin was really annoyed. As an expert at the 10th level of the Devil King stage, how could he not know basic ancient martial arts knowledge? She was clearly using this opportunity to find out their identities. However, Xiaoqin also felt that if he let the mist directly reject Little Xing's consultation, this transvestite would definitely come up with other tricks. Therefore he might as well use the fee as an excuse. He wanted to quote a high price to make Little Xing back off. If she didn't refund him, he would still be able to make a profit, wouldn't he? Little Xing was extremely depressed. This guy was obviously trying to scam her money. At this moment she even thought that this guy was probably Xiaoqin. Otherwise, why would he be so greedy? After thinking about it, Little Xing could only change her approach. "We are all classmates. It's too tacky to talk about money. How about this, I'll treat you guys to a meal as repayment. What do you think?" "I don't think so. How about I treat you to a meal? As long as you don't bother Yao Yao in the future." Xiaoqin shook his head, turned around and shouted towards the door, "Waiter, give me a bowl of rice." Not long after, the waiter came in with the bowl of rice. Xiaoqin pointed at it and signaled for it to be placed in front of Little Xing. Then he smiled faintly and said, "Come, this bowl of rice is on me. You don't have to be polite. Eat it while it's hot." This. Little Xing finally understood what Xiaoqin meant when he said he would treat her to a meal. She was so angry that her head was dizzy. However, she couldn't eat this rice. After eating it, she wouldn't be able to get close to Qing Yao Yao. Little Xing rolled her eyes and said hesitantly, "This steamed rice is too hard. I don't like it. How about?" However, before she could finish, she was interrupted by Xiaoqin. "Oh, so you like to live off a woman? If that's the case, I'm at my wit's end. You'll have to let your girlfriend think of a way. Maybe after she goes out to play, you'll be able to live off her." Xiaoqin shrugged and said unhurriedly, "You." Little Xing was angry and annoyed. She was about to go crazy. For a moment she didn't know what to say. She could only use her foot to nudge Ling Qianxue, wanting her to mediate for her. "Xiaoyi classmate, why are you so angry? Calm down." Ling Qianxue drank quite a lot of wine by herself. She looked like she had a lot on her mind. However, after receiving Little Xing's signal, she could only bite her lower lip. She raised her wine glass and said to Xiaoqin, My boyfriend doesn't really know how to talk. This glass of wine is my apology on his behalf. Don't take it to heart." "What's fine? Just take care of him." Seeing Ling Qianxue, who was sitting next to him, finish the entire glass of red wine in one gulp, Xiaoqin couldn't pursue the matter any further. He could only drink the wine in the glass and say a few perfunctory words. However, just as he finished speaking, Xiaoqin suddenly felt a small hand on his thigh. The slender fingers kept stroking back and forth, slowly moving towards a certain area. Xiaoqin subconsciously frowned. He didn't even need to look to know that it was Ling Qianxue's hand. He didn't know what trick she wanted to play this time. Helplessly, he could only move a little to the side. However, he accidentally touched Qing Minjing's body again. Hubby, you don't be so inflexible. They only asked me about a few topics. Since I have the ability to answer them, I should help them." Qing Minjing also drank quite a lot of wine. She vaguely heard the conversation between Xiaoqin and Little Xing, so she drowsily tried to smooth things over. If Ling Qianxue was drowning her sorrows in alcohol because she was vexed, then Qing Minjing was drinking too much because she had been too tense recently. It wasn't easy for her to find a chance to relax, so she indulged herself and drank a few more glasses. She didn't expect to unknowingly get to her head and speak impudently. "Yaya, you drank too much. Don't drink anymore. Otherwise, when we go back, you will disturb your roommates." Xiaoqin was a little surprised. He didn't think that after the miss got drunk, she would call him hubby in front of so many people. If he didn't hear it with his own ears, it would really be hard to believe. "Then let's not go back to the dorm. Let's go to that express hotel, get a room." Cheng Menjing waved her hands and gestured in the air for a while. Her face was completely red as she spoke loudly. Xiao Qin was instantly speechless. He felt especially awkward. He was speechless for a long time and couldn't say anything. After everyone else heard this, they all had an "I understand" smile on their faces. However, they didn't say anything else. After all, they were originally in a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. It was just getting a room. What was so strange about it? There were many university students who did this kind of thing. Ling Qianxue was also a little drunk. Her mind was thinking about how to complete the mission. She vaguely heard Cheng Menjing's words and said, I also want to get a room. During this period of time, Yorishima Kikuo had given Ling Qianxue a death order. No matter what Miss Xing requested, she must unconditionally cooperate. So when she received Miss Xing's order to seduce Ling Qianxue, she was also very depressed. On one hand, she didn't want to take the initiative to seduce Xiao Chen. On the other hand, she was troubled about how to complete the mission. Ling Qianxue, who was in a dilemma, drank a few more glasses at the banquet. She didn't expect that the alcohol would make her even more depressed. Her thoughts weren't very clear and she was only speaking subconsciously. Cheng Menjing nodded heavily. She stood up and pulled Ling Qianxue's hand. She said, then let's go together. My husband has a discount card for that express hotel. We can save a lot of money if we get a room. Since Cheng Menjing and Xiao Chen had talked before, she wasn't so angry anymore. In addition, Ling Qianxue had been taking the initiative to please her recently, so she also let down her guard. From Cheng Menjing's point of view, if she could have a good relationship with Ling Qianxue, it might not be a bad thing. She might even be able to get some information from them. So when Ling Qianxue wanted to get a room, Cheng Menjing subconsciously agreed. Everyone realized that these two girls were drunk. In addition, they were also a little drunk. They thought that Ling Qianxue wanted to get a room with Xing Gongzi. So, they didn't take their words seriously and began to leave the banquet. In the blink of an eye, only Xiao Chen, Cheng Menjing, Ling Qianxue, and Miss Xing were left. Chapter 904. Why does my stomach suddenly hurt? Little girl Xing suddenly held her stomach and said with a pained expression, Xiao Yi, I might have eaten something bad just now. Please wait for me at the cafeteria entrance, I'll be back soon. After speaking, little girl Xing didn't wait for Xiao Chen to reply and ran towards the washroom. Xiao Chen knew that little girl Xing was definitely playing tricks. There were so many people eating together and everyone was fine, why was she the only one with a stomachache? It was obvious that she was plotting something. However, Xiao Chen could also see that Ling Qianxue was really drunk and he couldn't just leave her alone in the cafeteria. After hesitating for a while, he could only support Ling Qianxue with his left hand and Cheng Menjing with his right. He helplessly dragged the two of them to the entrance of the cafeteria and stood there thinking of a solution. At this time, the evening self-study session had just ended. Many passing students saw that Xiao Chen was hugging two girls on each side and started pointing and whispering to each other. When the boys saw this scene, they were naturally very envious. On the other hand, the girls snorted in disdain and rolled their eyes at Xiao Chen. Seeing that the crowd gradually increased and Ling Qianxue and Cheng Menjing started talking nonsense again, Xiao Chen felt the cold wind for a while and the alcohol started to get to his head. After waiting for a long time and not seeing little girl Xing appear, Xiao Chen guessed that she must have slipped away. It was not a good idea to stand here with two drunk girls in tow. In desperation, he could only support the two girls and walk in the direction of the Express Hotel. At worst, he could just get two rooms and let Ling Qianxue stay by herself. After dragging the two girls to the hotel, Xiao Chen opened two rooms under the suspicious gaze of the attendant. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to directly drag the two of them up, but at this time, he realized something. Because Cheng Menjing was drunk, she couldn't use her energy to maintain the illusion on her face and was slowly changing back to her original appearance. Helpless, Xiao Chen could only put Ling Qianxue on the sofa in the lobby and drag Cheng Menjing to one of the rooms. As soon as he entered the room, he immediately cast an illusion on Cheng Menjing's face and restored her original appearance. Oh, it's so hot. Who turned off the air conditioner? Cheng Menjing suddenly felt that her body was very hot. She shouted discontentedly and began to take off her clothes. Before Xiao Chen could stop her, she quickly took off all her clothes and lay naked on the bed. Xiao Chen shook his head. He was a little tired and dizzy, which made him want to sleep. However, he vaguely remembered that there seemed to be someone waiting outside, so he stumbled back out. Back in the lobby, Xiaochen once again pulled Ling Qianxue to her room. At this time he was already a little confused and was only acting subconsciously. Ling Qianxue was also sent to her room. While taking off her clothes, she lay on the big bed and muttered, "Lord Yidao, please rest assured I will complete the task." Boom! Suddenly, a loud thunder came from outside the window. A bright lightning flashed through the night and illuminated the two beautiful naked bodies on the big bed in the room. It turned out that when Xiaochen was in a daze, he actually sent Qing Menjing and Ling Qianxue into the same room. However, at this time Xiaochen didn't notice at all. With the last of his consciousness, he closed and locked the door, then relaxed and also staggered to the side of the bed. Xiaoyi, I am scared. Sleep with me, for a while." As soon as Xiaochen staggered to the side of the bed, Qing Menjing, who was startled by the thunder, suddenly murmured. Then she stretched out her hand and tightly grabbed the corner of his clothes. She pulled Xiaochen to the middle of the big bed and curled up in his arms. Only then did she feel a lot more at ease. Xiaochen, whose consciousness was already blurred, didn't notice the thunder at all. He also didn't know what Qing Menjing did to him. He only felt that he fell on a soft place and directly fell asleep. Boom! At this moment, a thunderous sound that was even louder than the previous one came from outside the window. Ling Qianxue, who was behind Xiaochen, also turned around and leaned her head on his back. Her hands tightly hugged his waist, and her whole body stuck to his body. She rubbed against him for a bit, and from her mouth, an unclear murmur came out. Outside the window, a heavy downpour covered the sky and covered the earth. The next morning, Qing Menjing was sleeping in a daze. She felt that the bed sheets near her thighs seemed to be a bit wet. She reached out and scooped it up. Then she squinted her eyes and looked at it. What entered her eyes was a bright red. She was stunned for a moment and suddenly turned pale with fright. Ah! Qing Menjing let out a heart-wrenching scream and jumped up. When she looked down, she realized that she was completely naked, and Xiaochen, who was beside her, was also completely naked. Most importantly, the bedsheets under her thighs were all stained with red blood. Xiaochen and Ling Qianxue were awakened at the same time by the scream. After opening their eyes, they saw each other and realized that the two of them were sleeping in each other's arms. After the two of them looked at each other, they immediately separated. Xiaochen, who realized that something was wrong with the situation in front of him, first subconsciously checked himself. To his surprise, he discovered that he had advanced to the peak of Golden Core Stage Level 9 overnight. Although Xiaochen didn't know how he had advanced by 2 levels, he didn't even have time to be happy before he realized that his current situation was very embarrassing. Beside him, Qing Menjing and Ling Qianxue were both naked. There was also a pool of blood on the bedsheets. All these signs indicated that last night, one or both of them were done by Xiaochen, but why didn't he feel anything at all? Then, the situation in front of him was a bit strange. Because last night the two girls drank until they couldn't remember anything, and Xiaochen also drank quite a bit. Until now he was still confused and didn't know how he did it with Ling Qianxue. His memory was also intermittent and fragmented. He couldn't piece together the whole thing and didn't know what to say for a moment. Qing Menjing stared blankly at the blood on the bed. She was completely dumbfounded. She had thought of saving her first time for her wedding night with Xiaochen, but she didn't expect it to be gone just like that. The most important thing was that it happened in a situation where she didn't even realize it. Woo. The more Qing Menjing thought about it, the sadder she became. She couldn't help but cover her body with a pillow and sob in a low voice. Xiaochen stared at the blood on the bedsheets. He was also very speechless. He didn't have any memory of what happened last night. Opening his mouth, Xiaochen couldn't say anything for a long time. He wanted to comfort the young miss, but because Ling Qianxue was there, he didn't know where to start. In Ling Qianxue's eyes, the two of them were boyfriend and girlfriend. Since that was the case, wasn't it normal for something to happen? The situation was unclear now. If he spoke rashly, it was very likely to arouse Ling Qianxue's suspicion. Yao, don't cry. Ling Qianxue was a girl after all. Seeing how sad Qing Menjing was, her first reaction was to comfort her. Woo. Qing Menjing cried even louder. At this time, any comfort would be a catalyst for tears. Ling Qianxue was actually quite confused. She remembered that Qing Yaoyao and Xiaoyi were a couple. Also, the two of them often went out to get a room. How come Qing Yaoyao was still a virgin? Could it be that Qing Yaoyao didn't agree to do that with Xiaoyi? Ling Qianxue, who thought she found the crux of the problem, changed her method of comfort. Yaoyao, don't take it easy. Don't you and Xiaoyi often get a room? It will definitely come to this step sooner or later. Don't be so sad. Woo-woo. How can that be? Although the two of us often get a room, we are both dual cultivators. It's not as dirty as you think. Qing Minjing's face was full of annoyance as she said while sobbing. Right now, her mind was completely focused on the matter of losing her first time. Hearing Ling Qinshua's words, she subconsciously took out the facts to refute. She didn't even consider that she said the wrong thing. Chapter 905. She understood Xiao Chen very well. Although Ling Qinshu had suffered in her place, with Xiao Chen's personality, it was unlikely that he would just treat it as a wet dream and let it go. Their relationship was bound to be even closer in the future, and Xiao Chen would definitely be responsible for Ling Qinshu. Qing Minjing, who was thinking a lot, suddenly heard a faint sobbing sound. She looked up and found that it was Ling Qinshu who was silently crying. Don't cry. Haven't you been seducing Xiaoyi? Since you've achieved your goal, why are you still crying? I didn't mean to blame you. Qing Minjing was shocked and didn't know how to comfort her for a while. Now, the situation seemed to have been reversed, but the identities of the two people were as different as heaven and earth. I wanted to seduce him, but I didn't want to give myself to him. Besides, I'm still a virgin. How could I do this with Xiaoyi? Oh. The more Ling Qinshu spoke, the more wrong she became. She couldn't help but burst into tears. Qing Minjing was speechless after hearing this. She wanted to say something to comfort her, but she didn't know what to say. In desperation, she could only give Xiao Chen a look, which meant that he was a heartless guy. This is his own trouble, so think of a way to solve it yourself. Xiao Chen was also stunned. Seeing Qing Minjing give him a look, he came back to his senses. Looking at Ling Qinshu who was crying, he felt very guilty. He could only walk over and gently hold her in his arms. He softly comforted her. Okay, don't cry. I'll go ask Chief Ling for your hand in marriage, and then I'll help you get rid of that Night Island guy. That way you can regain your freedom. Under Xiao Chen's comfort, Ling Qinshu finally stopped crying, although she still couldn't get over it. But her tears were still flowing and she sobbed from time to time. Seeing Ling Qinshu like this, Xiao Chen felt guilty and helpless. After a while, he suddenly thought of something and said, "Don't be too sad. And that lady boy named Xing, you don't need to listen to her anymore. If she dares to cause you trouble next time, tell me and I'll beat her to death." Now that he had reached the peak of the 9th level of the Golden Core stage, Xiao Chen was confident. He didn't need to be afraid of Xing Qinshu or anyone else. Qing Minjing frowned. Looking at Xiao Chen's shameless words, she couldn't help but secretly rolled her eyes and despised him in her heart. If you want to comfort me, then just do it properly. Why do you have to pretend to be a big shot? Saying that you want to turn Night Island upside down and beat up the little girl to death. Even if you want to please Ling Qinshu, you don't have to do this, right? Let's see how you're going to deal with her when she really comes to kill you. You're really Xiao Chen? Ling Qinshu, who was in Xiao Chen's arms, finally caught the main point of his words. She suddenly raised her head and widened her eyes in surprise. She asked in disbelief. If Xiaoyi was really a passerby, a loser classmate in her class, then Ling Qinshu would really be heartbroken. However, if Xiaoyi's real identity was Xiao Chen, then her heart suddenly didn't have that much unwillingness and sadness. Yes, otherwise how would I know that you're the granddaughter of Bureau Chief Ling and that you're Ling Qinshu under the Sakura group? Xiao Chen nodded. Now that things had come to this, he didn't want to hide it anymore. During that period of time, he had already made his own decision. First, Xiao Chen planned to instigate Ling Qinshu to become his spy beside Xing Qinshu. Second, now that he was at the peak of the 9th level of the Golden Core stage, he didn't need to be afraid of Xing Qinshu anymore. Even if his identity was really exposed, it wouldn't be a big deal. Oh, I believe you. Since you're Xiao Chen, then my task is completed. Ling Qinshu stood up with difficulty. As she put on her clothes, she said with a sad expression, Then I'll go back first. Child Xing is still waiting for me. I still have to report to Master Yidao." Are you stupid? Why do you still want to find Yidao? Seeing Ling Qinshu's reaction, Xiao Chen was stunned and asked in surprise. Xiao Chen felt it was incredible. What was Ling Qinshu thinking? Even at this point he was still so unrepentant. Could it be that he had been brainwashed too deeply? As a senior ninja of the Sakura group, I must listen to Master Yidao. This is the glory of the ninjas of Japan. Ling Qianxue said naturally. She had been trained in the Sakura group since she was a child, so it was difficult for her to change her mind in a short time. After knowing that the person in front of her was Xiao Chen, Ling Qianxue's first reaction was that her task was completed and she needed to report to Master Yi Dao. I'm going to faint. Facing such a stubborn girl like Ling Qianxue, Xiao Chen also had a headache. He rolled his eyes and suddenly thought of another trick. Clearing his throat, Xiao Chen said sternly, "Why did I hear that after a woman in Japan becomes someone's wife, she even has to change her surname? And she has to obey her husband absolutely. As my woman, why do you care so much about the Sakura group? I don't think you're right." Xiao Chen also knew that Ling Qianxue was affected by her inherent ideas and it was difficult to change them in a short time, so he needed a bigger shock. Ling Qianxue was stunned and suddenly struggled in her heart. Xiao Chen seemed to be right. What should I do? Damn it, why are you hesitating? As your husband, I order you to break up with Yi Dao immediately. Xiao Chen pointed at Ling Qianxue and shouted fiercely. He didn't want to do this, but he couldn't think of any other way except to speak harshly. Ling Qianxue's expression kept changing. It was obvious that she was struggling fiercely in her heart. That's enough, Xiao Chen. That's enough, right? Ling Qianxue had no choice. Why are you angry at her? She's so pitiful, can't you say something nice to comfort her? Looking at Xiao Chen's rude behavior, Qing Minjing couldn't help but frown. She remembered that Xiao Chen used to have a good temper. Did he eat the wrong medicine today? Missy, I remember that you didn't treat Yi Xiaoya like this before. Why do you suddenly sympathize with Ling Qianxue now? Xiao Chen asked with some surprise. He really didn't expect that Missy would actually speak up for Ling Qianxue. Women were really fickle. TSK Yi Xiaoya was being cheap, but Ling Qianxue had no choice. How can it be the same? Qing Minjing said confidently. Back then, not only did Yi Xiaoya seduce Xiao Chen, but she also went against her, so Missy never had a good impression of her. Xiao Chen was speechless. He felt that he really couldn't keep up with Missy's thinking, so he simply stopped arguing with her. Xiao Chen, what you said just now seems to make some sense. Let me think about it first. Ling Qianxue suddenly wiped away the tears on her face and said. Ling Qianxue's feelings towards Xiao Chen were very complicated. Thinking back to the past after they met, and how she inexplicably became his woman last night, Ling Qianxue's heart was suddenly in a mess. At this moment she suddenly didn't want to harm him. However, she had served the Sakura group for so many years, and it wasn't so easy to leave it. She knew very well that the organization had very strict discipline. Those who left without permission would not have a good ending in the end. Alright, then take your time to think about it. I'll go out and buy you some breakfast first. Xiao Chen didn't force it. He waved his hand and gave Qing Minjing a look. He put on his clothes and walked out the door. Qing Minjing received Xiao Chen's gaze and glared at him. However, she still nodded. She knew what Xiao Chen meant. He wanted her to help sway Ling Qianxue's mind and make her choose to stand on his side. Qing Minjing naturally knew the importance of instigating Ling Qianxue to defect. If Ling Qianxue could hide by little girl Xing's side, then in the future she would be well informed, so this was a very important task. As soon as Xiao Chen went down to the lobby of the hotel, he saw young Master Xing wandering around the hotel, as if he was waiting for someone. Seeing this scene, Xiao Chen's heart moved. He deliberately poked his head out and sneaked out from the side door of the hotel. Although Ling Qianxue already knew his true identity, he didn't plan on telling little girl Xing for the time being. After all, he didn't know this little girl's character very well. He also didn't know why she kept following him. Hey, Xiao Yi, have you seen my girlfriend? As expected, little girl Xing saw Xiao Chen's purposeful hiding. She immediately shouted and chased after him, asking anxiously. Oh no, I don't see her. Xiao Chen nodded, then immediately shook his head. His expression was a little panicked as he spoke incoherently. You don't see her? Are you for real? Didn't you guys get a room together last night? Why didn't you see her? Little girl Xing squinted her eyes and carefully looked at Xiao Chen, asking suspiciously. No, I didn't see her. Xiao Chen shook his head like a rattled drum. Little girl Xing's tone was suspicious. Last night I went to the washroom. When I came out, I realized that you and my girlfriend were both gone. Why isn't she with you? Last night? No. I was drunk last night, so I don't remember anything. I still have things to do, so I'll be leaving first. Goodbye. Xiao Chen randomly said a few words and turned to leave. Wait. Little girl Xing grabbed Xiao Chen's arm and frowned. Tell me, did you do something to my girlfriend? Tell me the truth. Looking at Xiao Yi's panicked expression, how could little girl Xing believe his words? And last night she was hiding in the dark and clearly saw Xiao Yi bring Qing Yaoyao and Ling Qianxue into this hotel. This brat was obviously lying. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.